This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on board this afternoon sunset safari. We're hoping we'll get a sunset later. There is a bit of cloud around, but we have found tracks of what I believe to be the Telemati Pride has come back onto Djuma, into the heart of Djuma. There was a bit of rain between the drives, and they were hunting in the rain. That's what they do. That's what they do. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up on these tracks. We're following them now. Tristan is out and about. He wanted to follow up on the lions. So Tristan is out with myself. Tess is out in Ngala. She's looking to follow up on a leopard. Moritz in Tswalu Kalahari is looking to follow up on some wild dogs. And we have JP out in Pridelands. We don't have and Beyond Pinder this afternoon, but we are very excited to welcome on board your live African safari. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on board my vehicle. My name is indeed Steve Holtbridge, and I'm joined by Port on camera, and we are excited, as always, to have you with us. Now, if you have any questions or comments, please send them through hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Throw them in on the YouTube chat stream. And if you're under 18, get your parents or guardians to send through an email to kidssquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, it is a wonderful afternoon, 26 degrees Celsius, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you have not done so already, please go over to the website, register, go over to the chat page where you can start to send through your questions directly there. So the Telematis, we tracked them this morning. They were in Djuma. They went out. It started raining. They've come back. I will find a nice little patch here where there's some tracks for you to see, but it's not very clear right now. They're all over the place, but there's some quite muddy patches here where they've... Oh, there we go. Just on the left on the floor. Can you see it, Paul? That is a lion track. Can you see it? Just there on the floor. Lion track in the muddy ground. There we go. Very good. So the whole pride has walked this way. We're actually going to slowly head back towards sort of the watering holes because we had a whole lot of zebra and wildebeest tracks on our way down that seemed to be moving quite quickly, and I didn't think too much about it. Sorry about that, until we found these lion tracks. So they came in, and they are definitely hungry. Definitely hungry, but I was asked a question this morning, like, what will storms influence the hunting? And, well, lions will move, as will leopards, in the wet. It wasn't crazy rain, it was just, what would you call it? A very nice, soothing rain that helped us have a nice little morning nap. But we've got to be very aware and alert, because, as was with this morning, I had visual of a female leopard, and then she disappeared, and we never saw her again. So those tracks seem to have gone through there. No, there's still one. Still one in the road. Bobby, it excites you when we start with some promising tracks. Well, I can tell you, Bobby, it excites me too. Now, I think they've gone through there. That'll come out on Twin Dams Road. And so we know that these are fresh, everybody. Do you know why? Because we knew where the lions were this morning, and they're on top of the rain or in the rain. So that gives you an indication. If they walked a little bit after the rain, still a couple of them in the road here. It starts to get quite difficult after the rain because the ground gets hard, but while it's still wet, they leave a very nice muddy print. As I'm sure many of you have stepped outside of your house after some rain and you just slip and slide. Well, that's exactly what happens. Okay, so here we're coming to a junction. Junction's always very important because the lions either go straight down to the river, which I doubt, or they're going to turn left or right. I'm thinking they're going to turn left. And Paul, what do you think? Left? I'm thinking they're going to go left. But just have a little scan, just to check the road in front. Giraffe Girl, yes, they only were off Djuma this morning for a few minutes, it seems. So they're heading straight up Twin Dams Road towards the dam. I've actually got a very strong feeling. Dam cammers, are you paying attention to the dam cam? Are there lions sitting in front of the dam? So yes, it's lovely that the lions went off for 5 minutes and came back again. That's always a wonderful thing. Now this bit of road is tough. This is a hard patch. But it's unlikely they would have walked into the grass unless they saw something worth hunting. So you can zoom along on these patches until you find a soft patch where you can see the tracks in the sand like that. And if you've got one, you've very likely got quite a few of them. So my plan was to send us over to Chitwa to go follow up on the wild dogs and maybe see if we could find Thandi. Tristan was to find the lions, so I'm sure he's going to be excited to know that the tracks are here. So hopefully he's just around the corner trying to pick up on them himself.
Well, good luck, Steve. Hopefully you find what you're looking for down on Chitwa. There's lots of things happening down there this morning, so I'd imagine that Steve's going to have some luck between the dogs, and I think Thandi was found there this morning too, so maybe he'll get lucky with her as well. My name is Tristan, for those of you that don't know. On camera I've got Theo this afternoon, and we're just bumbling at the moment, just taking in the kind of beautiful afternoon that we're having, considering all of this hype about the storm, which seems to be reducing quite quickly now. It's not as bad as everyone thought it might be to start with. We'll see, obviously, how it goes. But just enjoying the kind of beautiful weather before apparently it's going to rain all night and tomorrow. So let's just bumble and, impalas. And so, yeah, the plan is probably just to kind of see what we can find. I'm just checking the western side of Djuma at the moment. I don't know why as we left camp, I just had this feeling to come this way in case Hukamuri or Shitulu was around. I don't know why I had that feeling. I just did. So I'm just checking here a little bit just to see if I can see anything after the rain that we had during the day today. And if not, then I'll go to where I last saw Tlalamba and start kind of scratching there a little bit later. You can see a lot of these impalas while they are in the sun. A lot of them are also seeking shade. And that's because the sun really has come out in the last, I would say, half an hour. And it's baking hot right now. It's when the sun is, not behind any clouds, it's got a searing heat to it. And so you'll find these guys are all going to try and push into some shade when the sun's out. As soon as it goes behind clouds, then they'll come out again. And we'll be able to kind of see them on these open clearings. But one thing I always try and tell every single guest that I've guided is that spending time with these guys is vitally important for a number of reasons. One is that impalas are incredibly beautiful animals in their own right and highly underappreciated. They have a huge ecological role within these systems. They are animals that are shaping this environment. They are allowing for all kinds of things to take place around them. So without them, this environment would be much poorer in many respects, and it wouldn't be able to support the diversity and numbers of predators that we see. So that's one kind of part of it. The other part of it is that these guys are often something that's going to lead you to other things. They occur in more open clearing areas in late afternoon, early mornings, and that always can give you a chance of seeing things like wildebeest, zebra, and all of those animals that congregate in those areas. But also with them is that often just sitting like this, you'll either, they themselves will start alarm calling if they see something, or you'll hear another alarm call, or you'll see a bird that you can kind of have a little look at. So I find spending time with them is a really kind of good thing to do, particularly if you don't have too much in the way of leads, of tracks and things like that. Sometimes just going from impala herd to impala herd and just watching them go about their business is a really good sort of technique in order to find what you're looking for. I think they are the most magnificent little creatures. And what I always say is, if there were only 10 impala left in the world, everybody would want to see them. Because of the fact that they're so pretty. life expectancy of an impala in captivity, I mean, they can get to about 12. But here in the wild, very, very seldom are you going to get animals getting anywhere near that. And the reason for that is because they get so heavily predated. In this reserve that we're in at the moment, I mean, these guys have a lot to deal with. They've got wild dogs, lions, a very high density of leopard, cheetah, hyenas. So there's just a lot going on. Pythons eat them. Martial eagles have been known to take them. So they have a tough time. It's not easy to survive in these areas. And so when you start to age in the wildlife terms, is that you'll often, unfortunately, be picked off because you start to become slightly slower and therefore an easier target for predators. So in the chase, you might not be as quick as the one in front of you, and you unfortunately get grabbed. So, they don't live their full expectancy. Mostly, I mean, there'll be anomalies here and there that will get there. But for the most part, as they start to slow down, they unfortunately get caught by the various predators that hang around these areas. And they then kind of, unfortunately, like I say, don't make it to a fully kind of lived life. But that's part and parcel of being out here. It's the same as a lot of predators don't make it to what their kind of life would be in a captive environment. It's the same thing. Living out here is not easy, whether you are a big predator or a little small impala. I mean, everybody is in a constant struggle to survive. The only ones that probably have it fairly easy in comparison to everybody else would be ellies. The ellies, typically in protected areas like this, are having it much easier. They're not having to worry so much about, all the kind of things that impalas and leopards and the likes worry about. There's not very many things that hunt them. They find food pretty easily, being herbivores, and their ability to dig and use tusks to pull bark off and things like that means that they typically can find food even in the harshest of winters and drought periods. They still seem to be able to do what they need to do. All right, it's always nice when we have a new face that comes on, and so let's send you across to Pridelands. I believe JP is going to be taking us out there while Taylor's away for a little bit, and so hopefully he'll have a wonderful afternoon and enjoy his drive with us this afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. My name is JP Leroux, and behind the camera we've got Gerrit. At the moment we're sitting breeding herd of elephant, approximately some 50 to 60 individuals that are busy feeding. It's also quite interesting to note that there's a number of swallows that's actually swift, which is busy flying in between the elephants. And as these elephants are walking, these guys are also creating a meal opportunity for these swallows as they're disturbing insects. Going back to the breeding herd, a group like this, 50 to 60 elephants, it's quite a nice size herd to find. However, we also often find that they often get much bigger than this. Sometimes we even find herds of up to 200 to 300 elephants when it comes to a breeding herd. As you can notice, there's a large number of different sized animals, and most of these are also females and they're young. Sometimes we've got young males in these groups. These guys will normally be between 14 or 15 years of age. After that, they get given the boot, and then they will join into bachelor herds, which they'll spend pretty much for the next 10 years of their life, and approximately by the age of 25, those young males will be able to start reproducing. Going back to the breeding herd, we've got a little elephant over here right in front of us that's busy cleaning off a shrub. It's full of sand and it's quite smart, and what it's doing is removing the sand to prevent that the sand can damage the molar teeth. Some of you might know that elephants actually have 6 sets of molars throughout their life, which is present at different times. However, when it comes to the largest set, when that's then worn out, they will no longer be able to feed successfully. Good afternoon, Jackie, and welcome to the show. If you have a look at the elephant that is all brown in color, this elephant has recently gone for a swim at Ndlovu Dam. It covered itself with water firstly to cool itself down, had a little bit of a roll in the mud, and then still sprinkled itself full of dust. So the aid of that is to protect it against parasites, but it also has a cooling effect. And what we find is quite often that the mud and the soil will later on peel off, very similar to having a facial, and then the ticks will also fall off. So quite often what we also do find is that these individuals that are full of sand and mud will quite often go up to a tree where will go and rub themselves for quite a long little time to get rid of those parasites. So one of the characteristics that we normally look at when it comes to elephants, and my favorite thing about elephants, and good afternoon Gemma and welcome to the show, my favorite thing about elephants is the social interactions which they display, and quite often they display some characteristics which are almost human-like in nature. And for me to watch elephants swimming, that's probably the most beautiful thing to watch about elephants. And it really gets me excited to see elephants in the water, just playing around, individuals that's wrestling, some individuals that's pouring water over them, others that are just having a swim, and then some of them just having a drink. So when it comes to elephant cows, it's quite actually easy to separate them from bulls. So when we look at the forehead profile of the female, just see if we can zoom in on one of the cows, you'll notice that they've got a pretty square-shaped head profile, unlike the bulls, which has a pretty round head profile. And the reason why the bulls have round head profiles, this is to create a bigger surface area when they are wrestling against one another, when it comes to fighting for dominance. However, with the cows, they don't need this. We also quite often will notice, if we do look at cows, just like rock hyraxes, they've got mammalia in the front legs, that's the teats, simple. And what we'll also notice is that they fairly have a straight angle from chest to groin compared to the bulls, which has quite a sloped angle from chest to groin. One of the cows right in front of us, you'll notice that there's a secretion coming from the side of the gland that's directly behind the ears. And the reason why that happens is quite often when individuals are stressed, that we'll see that they will also start secreting glands from the temporal glands. However, quite often when we do come to find bulls that have a temporal gland secretion, we often find it as that they must, or either that they are also stressed. So at the moment, I'm not quite sure what is stressed her, but sometimes it's diet, sometimes, although at the moment there's so much green grass, which is a incredibly good, rich source of food for them, and there's a more than sufficient water for them as well. So generally it's a characteristic I've noticed is more common with cows at the end of the dry season, when there's very little food as well as very little water around. Just while we're on the topic of what they were eating earlier in terms of grass and being an abundance of grass, we find that in the summer months they tend to feed more often on grass compared to the winter months, where they will actually feed more on leaf material and a wide range of other things. What I'm also hoping to find in the next few days is a few marula trees. I haven't had a few marulas for myself lately, but hopefully we'll see an elephant or two enjoying the marulas on the trees as well. Good afternoon, Dominique, and welcome to the show. Yes, sometimes it becomes so big that they spread it out all over the area. It's been quite a while for me since I've seen such a big group. However, I normally always look around and I look at the behavior of individuals to see what they are doing. But I'm also quite clever about how I position myself, always making sure that there's a sufficient escape route for me in case that I can't keep an eye on all individuals. So normally what we do is we drive, stop, look at what they're doing, then go a little bit closer, judge their behavior again, and then we'll decide if we're going to stick or go a little bit closer with a group. Or alternatively, if we do have elephants that are in big groups, which can be tricky, where their behavior is of such a nature where they're aggressive, we rather move off and we can find another breeding herd, or we provide them with a little bit more distance. It's actually very important to provide them with a fair amount of personal space as well as distance so they have their own escape routes. A few years ago, I was busy watching a group of 22 lions, and the next moment there was 180 elephants in a breeding herd that approached. The next moment, they detected these lions by scent, and we had a little charge of a group of 180 chasing a group of lions over several kilometers. With a situation like that, if you don't have enough personal space and you don't have yourself in a position where you don't have an escape route, you can actually find yourself in a bit of a tricky situation. So coming back onto a question about earlier, one of the other things that absolutely fascinate me about elephants is watching how they feed, especially how they use their trunks. Good afternoon, Jennifer, and welcome to the show. They've got fairly small eyes compared to their body, so they also don't have very good eyesight. Now, if I remember, I read something once before, a long time ago, that they actually can see up to 50 meters if something is standing still, or moving, my apologies. However, if it's an object that's standing still, their eyesight is not so great. However, their hearing is amazing, and also their ability of smelling is incredible. And on top of that, they've got very specialized cells underneath the feet, which is known as a pacinian operculus, which can detect vibrations which is inaudible to the ears. So for the one shortcoming in terms of sight, they've got several other adaptations where they're very well equipped with. We're going to continue towards Ndlovu Dam and go and see what we can go and find. We'll be back shortly.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off.
It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The cock's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest.
There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going, it's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it?
Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me.
It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live from the Chobe River?
It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live, and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
What makes and Beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve so special is our massive array of habitats. And with that comes, of course, a beautiful diversity of landscapes, but also an incredible biodiversity in terms of plants, bird life and animal life, as well as, of course, our conservation success stories with cheetah, with rhinos, now with pangolins too.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
A very sunny and warm good afternoon from and beyond Ngala. I'm sitting here with a big breeding herd of buffaloes, and this old bull is doing a phlegm grimace, and he's been standing in this position for ages. He sniffs the ground, maybe where one of the females has urinated, and then he does that phlegm grimace where he almost looks like he's smiling at the camera, and he's testing the urine through his mouth to see what cycle she's in. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide this afternoon at And Beyond Ngala. Behind the camera we have Sebastian. And this afternoon we're going to be spending a little bit of time with these buffaloes while they sit here. They seem to have settled down for the day. And it's actually quite strange. We can see where they've been lying in the grass. It's almost like they can tell that that weather is coming. And so they've been here consistently throughout the morning. And that's very unusual because normally buffaloes would be moving during the day and feeding. And instead it looks like they've been lying here ruminating, just chewing the cud and hunkering down for the weather that is coming. So a few of them, like this particular male, have been checking us out just to make sure of what we're doing. You can see he's sniffing, look how those nostrils are moving. And he's just checking to make sure that there's no danger here. But you can see quite a few of the herd are actually still lying down. There's a bit of a dominance issue going on between a few, and every now and then we hear a grunt. And this is just the back end of the herd. The rest of the herd seems to be through the thickets to the back side of where they're all lying down. There's some females together. There's even some calves here and a big male there. And the wind is actually incredibly strong today. And I think that's part of the reason why they have been lying down. Andrew, here in South Africa, it would depend on the type of farming you're referring to. Usually when people have buffaloes for farming in South Africa, it would be this species, which is the Cape buffalo. But that kind of farming might be for buffalo meat, but a lot of the time it might also be for the hunting safaris industry, as the Cape buffalo is one of the big five and it is considered a trophy species. So it might be the species that you're referring to. It is the only species we get in South Africa, the Cape buffalo. Personally, I think they look much better out here. So the females in particular actually seem to be a bit more interested in us than the males at this point. You can see the females are the ones that are actually looking over at us. And I know that they're females because you can see in that frame, the male was behind and he's got a much bigger set of horns, but also have a look at his body size compared to the female that's on the left of the screen. He's quite a bit darker and he's taller. She's got a lot more brown on her, but if you have a look at her horns, you'll see in the middle where the horns meet is quite flat and there's a bit of hair. The males in that section have a massive, lumpy, thick section of horn called the boss, which is used for fighting. And it's one of the easiest ways to tell buffaloes apart. There you could actually see it a little bit when he lifted his head behind that female. What might be happening here is possibly she wants to, or is getting ready to mate, and that's why he's so close behind her. Maybe that's why he was testing the urine on the ground. And why he's staying so close to her. You can actually see he's right behind her, and a few times he's rubbed his chin on her back. There he is. You can see that boss now. That big lumpy section in the middle of his horns where they meet is called the boss. But you can see with that grass in front of him as well how strong the wind is. Every now and then it just looks like a breeze. But this wind is very, very strong. Haddison, no. So the males and females, the outside shape of the horn is the same where it curls up on the edges, but the males tend to have a lot bigger horns, and you can see that section in the middle. There's a female on the left and a male on the right. That section in the middle is what tells them apart. Can you see the lumpy part on the top of the buffalo on the right? That's his boss. Where the one on the left is quite flat and there's hair in the middle, that's the female. There you can see the hair in the middle. And you can also see her horns are a lot narrower, they're a lot thinner. Where if you look at his, they've got very deep curls that are very thick. And he's got an oxpecker on his head. Trying to shake it off. So that part of the horn that the oxpecker, that bird is on, is used for fighting in the males, because they'll have a very dominance hierarchy. And the females actually have one as well. It's one of the few species where the males and females within the herd will have their own dominance hierarchy. And that determines where they feed and where they sleep in the herd. So these buffaloes are definitely keeping a lookout for big cats this afternoon. And speaking of, I'm going to sit here with them for a little longer and send you over to Steve with some of his big cats.
Yours coming? Thanks, Tessa. Well, I'll come back, everybody. We have managed to find a portion of the Talamati Pride, 4 individuals. Tracks were fresh, and we found 4 of the youngsters. Now, there's one lying down in the shade. He had a little young boy. He's going to get up in a moment and follow the other 3 that are in front of us now. They're trying to smell where the family's gone. Ooh, yawny pants. There we go. Up you get. It's a young boy. And the other 3, he's going to head straight over to them now. The other 3 are just in front. They're busy sniffing and sniffing and sniffing. The pride of 15 or 14, 15, 14. We're all through here. And it's very common for lions to lose each other when they're moving and in the hunt. And no doubt the females probably decided to move a little bit further. There was some activity of giraffe that had been running on the road before. I nearly turned, and then I had a look at some giraffe tracks, and they went in one direction. We took a different road, and we found the fresh tracks again. So I think that big male giraffe got away. But this morning, Tristan had some buffalo, only a few buffalo tracks that headed sort of in this general direction. So it's possible that the pride has been tracking them, or they were for a little bit anyway. And then I think the rain might have influenced that. There we go, look at that. In the long grass, you can't even see them. So very easy to drive past them at these times of year. Very easy. And there could be a whole pride right there. You wouldn't even know it. So can you imagine being a poor little prey animal? Well, always feels good when you pick up tracks of animals and find them. Definitely is one of those things, the first time you do it is really awesome, and it never really gets old. Okay, I'm going to move up the road here and see if we can get a better view. Rosalind, how big are lions' teeth? They're bigger than mine. About, canines are about this big. I couldn't tell you the measurement. I'm sure someone's measured. I don't think these guys will let me measure. Okay, so I don't know why they're all walking there. It's obvious that the pride has walked up this way. There we go. They finally picked up on the smell. That one in front. Hello. You picked up on the smell, have you? See, lions don't follow the tracks, they follow the scent. And they probably got tired. They thought, what on earth are you doing moving in the day, mum and auntie and older sisters? What are you doing moving in the day? So the tracks are clear as day to me on the road now, but the lions probably would have lost the scent of it, but it's still residual. There's still a residual scent there that they are now following. So let's move up. Follow them. They're heading directly east. So they did a big loop. They came in from the west, came into the middle. There's another one coming up over there. Here we've got the other three. I've no doubt we will find the rest of them soon. And I wish I could track like this. I wish I could find lions and leopards with my nostrils. I've followed young male lion, tracking his family for kilometers and finding them over rocks. Ross, dominant males come and go in prides, and they're very, very commonly found, especially when the cubs are young, and then when it's breeding time. As soon as the cubs reach a certain age, it's possible that the dominant male just gets left behind, or he moves on to another pride. He can't be with all the ladies at the same time, but he often spends a fair amount of time with one pride at a time. So when the females come into estrus, I can guarantee you he'll be in close attendance. Now, Darkmane is a big male lion of the Avoca pride. He's been with this pride for the last year and a half, I think, non-stop. I've seen this pride now 2 times. Oh, hello. Here comes the other boy. 2 times or so in the last few days, and he hasn't been with them. So I don't know where he is. He's probably gone off to search for some females. There was a pride called in Manuleti this morning, not far from Sydney's Dam. Maybe they're a breeding pride, I don't know. It's possible he's with them. They don't spend all their time with one pride, but they will for a period of time, especially when the females are in estrus. And then if he wants to secure the lineage, okay, he's feeling like he's being left behind. See that walk he's doing now? That is the fast walk when we look at lion tracks. We see them walking quickly. That is the walk that they can eat the ground. See, now he's losing them. He's like, where have they gone? Let's move up. Let's follow them, shall we? Just give an update on the radio because someone's joining us. Okay, well, we'll follow these lines. I'm sure they wouldn't mind finding some buffalo, but it seems like Tessa has already found some of those herself.
So I am still with my breeding herd of buffaloes here at Anbion and Gala, and that particular female has an oxpecker trying to climb up her nostril. You can see it, she's struggling. She's trying to get it off. I think it's a bit ticklish. Oh, it's a young male actually. Have a look how it's chewing the cud still, so you can see there the mouth is moving. And that oxpecker is inside of this buffalo's nostril. And that's pretty normal because the ticks will go anywhere that there's a very good blood supply, and the nose is a fantastic organ with a lot of blood supply in it. So it's a nice soft area for the ticks to bite and get some fresh blood. And that's exactly what that red-billed oxpecker is looking for. So I heard Steve talking about the dominance in lion prides if there's a dominant male. And that is actually something that you can apply to buffalo herds. So you'll have dominant males and dominant females within a buffalo herd. Each gender has their own dominance hierarchy, almost like a ladder. And so you'll have the most dominant male and those following him, and then you also have the most dominant female and those following after her. And what this does in buffaloes is it gives the dominant males a chance to mate with more females, and the other males that are lower rank will then move around the herd and they protect the herd from all sides. Where with the females, what it actually means is something a little different. The females that are most dominant in a buffalo herd will walk towards the front of the herd, so they get the nice fresh grass that has not been trampled on, that there's no fresh poop on, those kinds of things. And their babies are also better protected because they're closer to the front of the herd, and things like those lines of Steves would be coming from behind, not from the front of buffalo usually. So the least dominant buffaloes would be towards the back of the herd as they're moving, so that they are more in danger of being exposed to the lions. It's also a really good advantage for when they want to sleep. The most dominant buffaloes would be towards the middle of the herd when they're sleeping, so that the moms and calves are protected, while the least dominant ones are on the outskirts where they're more susceptible to cold, but also to predators. So there's definitely a dominance hierarchy here, and you will have one more dominant male than the others usually. She's trying to mate. So mating in buffaloes can cause quite a stir. Enlightenment, yes, oxpeckers can be very nosy, it seems. They also tend to go for the ears, and that tends to freak me out a little bit when I see an oxpecker disappear entirely into a buffalo or a rhino's ear. We've definitely got some interesting dynamics going on here today. There is a female that must be ready to mate, and that male is following her around non-stop, and he keeps trying to mount her. And that can be quite an affair. I mean, imagine with 50 other buffalo around you. There's not a lot of space here. So it can be a bit of a challenge, especially since the males are quite heavy. We actually saw a very tiny calf. I don't know if you can see it in the grass. All I can see is some ears flicking in the grass there. It's a very young buffalo calf. And actually, when I tried to stand up just now, it was still a little bit wobbly. It's not wet, so it probably wasn't born today, but it was born very recently. And it's still a little bit wobbly and unsure of what to do. It's actually the first little calf I've seen in this herd. And you can see how long that grass is, because all you can see of that little calf is its ears, basically. I don't know if you can hear the wind, but this wind is incredibly strong today, and we know we've got that weather coming in. And I was thinking about it earlier. You know, it's really not normal behavior for the buffaloes to be this still in one position for so long. And I think they can feel it coming, so they've chosen a clearing. There are some thickets behind them. There's some thickets behind me. But it's a nice big clearing where they can hunker down for this weather that is coming in. So that oxpecker, oh my goodness, have a look at that. It's actually doing what we call scissoring. So if you have a look at its beak, it opens and closes its beak very fast while moving side to side through the buffalo's hair. And what it's doing is it's trying to feel any ticks that are in there that it can pull out. So oxpeckers can actually be quite a lifesaver for buffaloes. Gets quite a lot of those itches out, but they're also really, really good at warning when there's going to be predators coming. And so not only are they sorting out the problem of a pest or a parasite, but they have a very particular alarm call. And when that alarm call sounds from those oxpeckers, because they might have better eyes or a better view of lions coming in the grass, the buffaloes will take very quick notice of that noise. So they tolerate these oxpeckers quite a lot, even if they are nosy and decide to go into all the cavities that they shouldn't. Ian, I'm not sure exactly how many calories it would be. I think it would depend on the area that they're in and the type of grass that they would be eating. But they do need to eat almost all day, and if they're not eating, they're chewing the cud. So it would be a large amount of kilograms of grass in a day. And bear in mind, all they eat is grass. And the reason that they have to eat so much is because grass is actually quite difficult for the digestive system to break down. So if I was to estimate how much grass a buffalo would eat in a day, I'd have to say more than 20 kilograms of grass, probably a lot more, but I can certainly check and find out for you what the calorie value might be. It's part of the reason why buffaloes chew the cud, is because that cell wall of the grass is so difficult to break down. So they have to keep regurgitating it and chewing it so it grinds it down and they can actually access those nutrients. But being so big with such a large body and those kinds of things, I would imagine it would have to be quite a lot of calories in a day. It's very interesting. It's still only a few of the females that occasionally turn to watch us. The males are very relaxed. The calves are quite relaxed as well. I don't know if you can hear that very high-pitched bird in the background. That is the red-billed oxpecker. Jennifer, 8 years old. That is a fantastic question. How does an oxpecker stick to a buffalo skin? So buffalo have a lot of hair on their coat. And there you can see an oxpecker sitting on the back of that one. So they actually have very flexible feet with little claws on them. And so what the oxpeckers do is when they sit on any animal, they'll use those claws and those flexible toes to cling onto the hairs and sometimes even onto the folds of skin. And they do it incredibly well. Look at that one hanging on the side of this buffalo as it's going. So you can't even see the feet. It's clamped so tightly. The feet are clamped into little balls around the hair of the buffalo. But it is amazing to think that they can hang on so well. It really is very beautiful out today. We've got a lot of cloud cover coming in now. And the oxpeckers are actually very active. There's a lot. And a Creston Franklin that got a fright from the buffaloes. This
Sorry about the Hello everybody, sorry about that. Technical issues. We are trying to follow our young lions, and the vegetation is unbelievable. We lost him within about 30 seconds? 30 seconds is about right. Getting stuck on the vegetation here. Sorry, Paul. We've got a bush trying to fight back. Sorry, bush. It is very, very dense vegetation, everybody. Now, this is when being able to smell the lions will come in handy. But unfortunately, I haven't developed, watch out, this one's a buffalo thorn. Haven't developed the faculty yet to find lions with my nose. So we've just tried to go a little bit deeper and hopefully be lucky. I was mocking them before for not seeing their family's tracks, and I got my own back immediately. We lost them within a couple of minutes, so that is the way it works. How Tristan was able to stay with Kalamba this morning is remarkable. We had 4 lions to follow and we lost them. So this is a very interesting block. The grass is not only hiding the lions, it's also hiding big stumps. It's remarkable, the recovery, and this vegetation is going to encourage buffaloes to come through, which will be quite something. We should have lots of buffalo coming through this year, but I'm going to give it a couple more minutes trying to follow and see if we can find them. Otherwise we're going to have to get back on the road and go do something else. But in the meantime, Tristan, who was giving me a hand for a moment, is headed on towards the south. Let's go see what his plans are.
Well, hopefully Steve finds them. I mean, he's done a good job so far this afternoon in finding them. Not easy to track after rain like we had today, because all that rain did, it wasn't enough to really soak the roads. It was enough just to create this little crust, and tracks are actually quite tricky to see. So he's done well already, and I know where he is. It's not going to be fun following him there for now, but I'm sure they will come out, and I'm sure he will get them. It's interesting because it's right where Kalamba was this morning, where those lines are, so you never know. Maybe she was successful today and they kind of heard her. So you never know. I'm busy kind of slowly making my way to Chitwa, but going very slowly, and there's a simple reason for this, is because Steve said he saw a leopard here this morning, which I don't doubt at all. He had the tracks for it and everything. But what I do wonder is which leopard it is, because we were sitting with Kalamba at the time, so we know it's not her. Thandi was on a kill on Chitwa, apparently, with the cub, so it's neither of them. I can see the track here from where Steve marked it this morning. So it's neither of them. So who this is to me quite interesting. I mean, I suppose Kuchava could potentially be here. It would be surprising if it was in this area. This is a little bit far to the west for her these days. She has come in this direction before, but it's a little far to the west. So it could also just be a skittish female. I mean, it could be the likes of even Luna, but again, very far south for her. So I just want to try and scan. If you have a look here on my left-hand side, where these tracks went in, because I just saw the leopard tracks for Steve go in this direction. This area here looks beautiful and open, but the grass is quite long, so tricky. But what you do see is a beautiful stand of marulas that is all across here. And as we've seen over the last few days, our leopards are using these marulas a lot to lie in, particularly when it gets a little bit warmer and it's during the day. And so I wonder if maybe she's not lying up in one of these trees here, and that's why I came here, is just to check these trees very, very carefully. In grass this length, if she's lying down, we won't get her, but with the trees the way that they are, and like I said, the sun being out, you never know. Maybe, just maybe, we get lucky, and we are able to kind of find her lying up in a tree here somewhere, and find out who it is. It's definitely a female track. I just saw it now, as well. As Steve is 100% right. I mean, I always trust Steve's judgment when it comes to tracks. He doesn't give himself enough credit for his tracking ability, but he's actually very sharp on them. In fact, he's probably can track some animals better than myself or even Steph. We did a kudu track once, and Steve absolutely hammered Steph and I. So, you know, some animals he's pretty sharp with. So I trust his ability with the tracks themselves, and I'm sure, you know, we'll be able to find her somewhere here. If she's not too skittish, if she's skittish, well, then it's going to be tricky. Anyway, we're going to carry on. In the meantime, we're going to send you, I think, across to the western side of South Africa.
So I think we're having a few technical issues here at and Beyond Ngala with the storm rolling in. I'm sorry I had a freeze just now, but we are back with this big herd of buffaloes. And a few of them are starting to kind of come closer together again, as though they're going to lie down and wait for the storm coming in. And quite a few are already lying down together in a group. And you can see the sun has started coming out a little bit. There's a beautiful golden color added to their coats now. But it won't last long. We've got more cloud than blue sky. And there is that tiny little calf. Hardly even looks like a buffalo yet. So it's staying very, very close to mom at this point, which is very good. It shows how young it actually is. But I think the flies are bothering it. You can see the tail going and the legs constantly moving. A lot of new things to experience for a young calf, especially with a storm like this coming in. A buffalo might charge at someone if it feels threatened. So that's not particularly common in a herd like this. A herd's priority is always to protect the calves. And so for them, it's much easier to avoid a conflict, avoid any potential chance of getting injured and run away. The buffaloes that are more likely to charge would be the old males, the things that we call dagger boys, those ones that are on their own or have left the herd. They might be old, they might be injured, maybe they have arthritis, they're slowing down a bit. They are the ones that are more likely to charge at a vehicle. They are more potentially dangerous. And it's not that it's going to be a common thing that buffaloes would charge. It's more if they're feeling cornered or threatened. And that usually happens more from things like injuries with fighting or old hunting injuries as well. So in this situation, there is very, very little chance that a buffalo would charge at the vehicle. Any animal, the main priority is to preserve themselves, hope that they don't get injured, and protect their babies. And so any animal will only be provoked to attack if it feels threatened. Oxpecker on the head. You can actually see how long the hair is on that buffalo on the back of its neck there. So those are those hairs that the little oxpeckers grip onto. And actually now that the sun's come out a bit more, the buffalo are looking a lot more active. I think they might be starting to get a little bit warmer. The sun is heating them, and so they might be considering looking for some shade until the sun passes. And I don't think it will be long until the cloud cover covers the sun again. So what's also interesting is just with the sun coming out now, there are a lot more flies and insects that I can hear out at the moment. And I think that's also bothering the buffaloes, things like flies around the eyes, nose and ears. And even under the tail, anywhere that there's a bit of moisture, that's exactly where the flies are going to go, even any injuries. You can see they're getting quite frustrated, flicking their ears, tossing their heads to the sides, trying to chase those flies, maybe even trying to chase oxpeckers. There are some very big buffaloes in this herd. Oh my goodness. That female got a bit frustrated with the calf and actually tossed it to the side with her horn in her head. You can see the calf is looking a bit sheepish at the moment. I think it might be in a little bit of shock. Not quite sure what happened. The older one is actually checking on it. That's very sweet. That female looks like she is a little bit on edge. What she might be able to smell is actually the Makoti male or some hyenas, because where Makoti male has had his carcass recently, he's a big male leopard, is very, very close to here, probably about 200 meters north from where I am is the last place I saw that big male leopard, and so there have been some hyenas around as well. And perhaps that's what these buffalo are smelling. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to leave these buffalo to start settling in again. We're going to carry on towards the Timbavati River and see if we can find Makoti male for you.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're currently viewing an elephant by the name of Tswalu, which is one of the stars of this area. He's a big tusker, a fairly big tusker, and at the moment he's in must. So quite often what we can see is that he's dribbling urine between his legs. We can also see that the inside of the legs is stained with urine. Quite often that obtains a greenish sheen or coloration. Also on the side of the temporal glands, we can also notice that he's also having temporal secretions that has been excreted from the temporal gland when they are in full must. So the word must we often use for describing this condition, and it means irritable in Hindi language. Although this guy is incredibly relaxed, he's just going to come closer to us. We're just going to stand very still. He's going to most likely just move right past us. Hello boy, how are you? How are you? Thank you for showing yourself. You're probably one of the most beautiful elephant bulls in this area, and we are very privileged to see you. And we are very thankful that you've got such a beautiful temperament. Thank you, my friend. Unfortunately, you're going to lose him. So let's see if we can find him again. Okay, so he's moving out of our sight. So just to come back to him, we actually found him on the other side of a dam, and we had to come onto this side to come and view him, as there was no access on the opposite side, and we really, really great to find him. And just back on a breeding herd now as well. Seems as if all of them is moving away from the water. So our second breeding herd for this afternoon that we found, it's also a nice size herd, also probably in the vicinity of 40-50 individuals.
See, sometimes it's not just about the big things, there's also little things that occur with the big things, and that is a very cool shot of the dragonfly that is backed by a wrinkly skin of a massive elephant. And talk about big versus small. You can see there's the Ellie and the dragonfly just sitting, and there's a tiny little elephant too. There are elephants absolutely everywhere this afternoon. They are, I mean, I literally have driven every road, and all I've seen is elephant tracks and elephant bottoms disappearing into the grasses and bushes. Came down towards Chitwa, and I think there's about 4 herds just on Gari Main alone, all kind of moving into Torchwood and kind of just milling about. So it's elephant season at the moment. I wonder if they are moving kind of up and onto the crest for a reason. It's always interesting. You know, we talk about the fact that they can sense weather changes, and a lot of what we use to do that is, you know, experience based off coincidental stuff, as well as, you know, you can draw conclusions when you see something happen, and you kind of can sometimes make links where there aren't. But it's definitely interesting to see every single elephant that I've seen is heading to a crest. It's all heading up to the marula areas, which we know is food, but marulas also happen to be on the highest ground, or highest points in this area. And so that's going to make a perfect place for these guys to hang out if they're wanting to stay out of the really wet weather. I hope the storm doesn't actually disappoint in some respects. We've been going on and on about it. My hopes it's not going to just be a complete letdown in some ways, but in other ways I'm also not really looking forward to being pelted by rain for the next 4 days. Oh, hello. Little one is trumpeting at us. All right, let's carry on, because our Ellies are drifting into the thickets. I'm sure we'll bump some more at some point. Daniel, the elephants use their tails for fly swatting mostly, and for indication of emotion. So when I say indication of emotion, you're going to find that an elephant's tail will be dead straight when it's irritated and upset, or it's been panicked by something, and it'll kind of stick out. So they can use that to see each other's body language and understand, okay, there's a problem, or, you know, we need to figure out what's in amongst us. So they use that a lot for those reasons, but then also it's a very good fly swatter. That tufted tail at the end, it just flips and it kind of hits the rump area where the trunk can't reach. Where the trunk sort of extends to and the tail tip, when it comes forward, extends to, they basically touch in the middle of the body. And so the elephant has got its entire body covered by a swinging tail or a moving trunk, and therefore can keep biting flies and various other pests and parasites off of their body, and take it nice and easy. They don't have to stress too much about being bothered by those various animals or parasites. Scanning every single tree and termite mound just in case this leopard is around. And, if it is a skittish leopard, we're going to have to be kind of quite good about spotting it and then stopping, because often when a leopard is in a tree and you spot it and it is skittish, it'll come bombing down if it feels kind of threatened. But if you stop far away enough that it doesn't feel like you've seen it, then they often just stay there and you can kind of get an initial look at them, and then from there you can slowly decrease the distance. I actually had an amazing sighting of a young male leopard on Buffelshoek recently. I had guests and we were driving in the morning, and our guide that was with us spotted this leopard sitting in this marula tree with a kill. And as we kind of turned the car, this leopard just came down and ran, so very skittish. And we went back in the afternoon and sat in the pouring rain for probably about, I would say about 45 minutes, just in the rain, no sign of this leopard anywhere. And eventually we heard an alarm call, we saw this leopard right in the distance, and slowly but surely we decreased this distance, and eventually we got to the point where, we had this really cool sighting of this young male leopard. It was such a special experience. It's one that I'll always kind of cherish. I love those kind of moments where you start to earn a trust of an animal slowly but surely. Okay, we're going to carry on. We're going to hopefully find some sort of sign of this cat. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Tessa and see how she's getting on.
So we have found a very nervous-looking bachelor herd of impalas here at Ngala. And I think, again, it's the weather. There's a very strong wind and it's overcast. It's actually cooling down very quickly now. And what we've noticed is they have a lot of energy and they're a bit nervous. And so what they're doing is they've been giving each other frights and chasing each other around. And you can see this young male, the front of the screen, is staring intently at us. He's just walked out of the bushes and noticed us. Where some of the larger ones behind, you can see one chewing right in the background. Some of the larger ones are just looking around, making sure that there is nothing coming. But unfortunately for these impalas today, this kind of weather is the perfect hunting weather for the predators. But you can see how nervous they are. Any little movements, any breaking twig, or even another one that might jump around, is giving all of them a fright. There are actually some very beautiful males in this herd with very big horns, and so this is quite normal for them. These are the males that have been kicked out of the breeding herds, and in this herd they all have their own dominance hierarchy as well, to try and take breeding herds that will start rutting in May. All these males will be fighting, some of them to the death, to take over a breeding herd. So I'm going to sit here for a while and see what happens, see if they maybe get into some more dominance fights. And speaking of predators that are more active today, I'll send you over to Tswalu with their wild dogs.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a very warm afternoon here at Tswalu Kalahari. We actually had to spend quite a bit of time now trying to track these guys, and luckily found them. But we spent about an hour walking on their tracks. By the way, guys, good afternoon. My name is Moritz. Behind the camera, we've got Craig. And so, yeah, the plan, as you guys have heard, is to follow these dogs again this afternoon. We had the tracking team come out this morning and try and locate the dogs, which they did, luckily. And so came to the waterhole where they left them, but as we drove in, there was quite a bit of activity, from Gemsbok and roan antelope and all of those things. So we knew they weren't around anymore. But luckily, after a bit of walking around the dam and so on, picked up on their tracks and followed that for a little bit and managed to locate on these guys. They are not too much in the mood to be out in the open currently, as you can imagine, with it being so warm. Also don't necessarily want the vehicle too close to them at the moment. You can see there's one standing up now. But, we're sitting about 30 meters away from them, and that seems to be fine for them. So now that we've found them, luckily we can wait here and see, well, I've seen it just now when they were moving around a little bit and so on. And also the trackers told me this morning that when they found the dogs, they could see that they hadn't eaten yet. So with them being still hungry, I'm hoping that they'll look to hunt this afternoon and be successful. We had that near miss or near kill yesterday afternoon with a steenbok, but today is a new opportunity to be able to follow them and see how they operate when they are looking to hunt, which they have to do this afternoon. This is the waterhole which we are close to is a great waterhole for warthog, which is at the moment their favored species of prey, with them being a relatively small pack. So with that being the case, I'm hoping that one will come in, well, even more than one, and that they'll be successful with at least one of the warthogs, or something like a steenbok or something like that. So, great news that we could find them. And I'm very sure that we are going to have a very action-packed afternoon again. Jane, you're absolutely right. Tswalu is very green at the moment. It's beautiful to see the bush as it is. Throughout South Africa, it's just stunning to see how the vegetation is recovering, but particularly over here. Up until, about September time here, we had bare sand mostly. And now it's just an ocean of grass and flowers and trees full of leaves and so on. So it's very positive for the year that lies ahead. All of this vegetation will definitely be able to carry the herbivores through winter and into early summer, which is typically a little bit more dry for us. So that's the critical time. That early stages of summer when it's very warm but have not yet rained. When the water starts drying up and the vegetation is absolutely very low, the herbivore's condition can drop very quickly, and a lot of animals can get lost if it is a harsh year. We've had 5 of those, so we are very happy that it looks like it's not going to be the case this year. Well, I'm relatively certain that it won't, but just stunning to see the bush, as beautiful as it is. But yeah, guys, as you can see, very lazy, the dogs at the moment. So I don't think they'll get active just yet. Like I said, it is a very warm day today here. We've got just over 36 degrees Celsius, so nice and hot. And the breeze isn't really blowing at the moment, so you don't have anything cooling you down currently. There's a little bit of a drizzle with a wind, but it's not really going to cause the animals to start moving any earlier than they're supposed to. So now we just have to wait here with them. Luckily, now we have them. It's always the trick to find the dogs before they get mobile. As soon as they start moving, do try and find them, then you literally have to bump into them. Egbert, yes, there is only one pack in this region of Tswalu currently, the 4 dogs. Like I said, it's a relatively new pack. So exciting times with them now bonding, an alpha male and alpha female. And hopefully soon we'll get pups, which will be able to enlarge this pack. So yeah, very, very positive. Very happy to have the dogs around again. But yeah, lazy, only seeing the ears at the moment, flicking every now and again. And it makes, even though it is for the dogs a little bit easier to travel when it's warmer, it makes absolute sense for them to not be traveling currently, just because with it being so severely hot, even they are going to burn unnecessary energy that at the moment, because they haven't eaten for, that we know of, at least maybe 3 days. If they have eaten, it was something small. But yeah, it is very important for them to save as much energy as possible. So yeah, guys, we're gonna We're going to stick with them for a little bit, see when they get active. As soon as they do, we'll come show you guys. But for the meantime, we're going to send you over to Tessa, okay?
So we are back here with the bachelor herd of impala that are looking even more nervous than before here at and beyond Ngala. And the weather in the last 5 minutes has taken quite a turn. The wind is blowing incredibly hard now. And I can't see any blue sky anymore. And you can see a lot of them are staring straight into the wind right now. Especially the younger ones seem to be a lot more nervous. You can see he's moving that one ear, his right ear, backwards, listening behind him. His left ear is trained more forward so he can hear what's coming from in front. And he's a bit young to be part of the dominance displays that you would find in this herd. But the impala to the left is definitely one of the bigger ones in this bachelor herd, and he might be one of those that might chase the others around. You can even see the different eyes there. He's got an itch behind his horn. And on his leg, or his nose, either way. So you can see the flies are bothering them as well, flicking of the ears on all three of those impalas and their tails, even the impalas in the background. He's actually got a spot behind his head there. I wonder what that's from. Maybe from scratching. And now he's grooming himself. Tando, I think being herbivores, they're definitely more prone to being domesticated than things like the cats or the predators. I do know of cases where baby impalas have been abandoned, or maybe the parents have been killed on farms and stuff, and those impalas have been brought up in the yard. So I think it is possible. I think you always want to be very careful with wild animals. I wouldn't suggest domesticating any of them, but it certainly is possible, but I think you'd always want to be careful. They've got very sharp hooves, very sharp horns, and all it would take would be maybe a bit of a nervous attitude and something that sets any wild animal off, and it could result in a possibly dangerous situation. I definitely think all wild animals look much better out here than they would anywhere else. Must be quite nerve-wracking for these impalas. If you think about it, on a bad weather day like today, it might be quite difficult to kind of keep your wits about you, because you know that predators are more active and you're a predominant prey species for everything. But I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave these impalas and I'll send you over to JP with a bird in Pridelands.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we're busy watching a number of different bird species, and they're all looking straight down into the grass, and we're trying to figure out what they're looking at. So quite often when we do have mixed parties of birds like this, it might potentially be a predator that they would like to mob or keep their eye on. It might be anything from a snake up to a mongoose that might be hiding over there. So we're just going to sit and watch and see what they're getting up to. One of the birds that we see closest to us is a beautiful Birchall starling. As you can see, it's got bright iridescent colors. So quite often the starling is confused with both greater blue-eared and Cape glossy starlings. However, it's got an all dark eye by which you can identify it. The coloration which you actually see does not exist, and this is because of melanin crystals which forms on the feathers, which then creates a functional prism that refracts and bends the light. The second bird that's quite close by to it, or just directly above it, we're going to see if we can zoom in on him. That's a grey go-away bird, one of the Turocco family members. There's also a crested barbet that's just coming in, the one that we see over here. That's one of our largest barbet species in South Africa. Some of you actually might know that barbets have the ability to excavate their own holes in trees, just like woodpeckers. So they will use this as their nesting sites. This is one of my favorite barbets in terms of its coloration pattern, but also its ability to create incredibly long, drawn-out calls that it will produce. There's also some yellow-billed hornbills that we have over there in the distance. And then just to, there we go, there's the yellow-billed hornbills. And then just to the left of that, that is called a white-crowned shrike, or a Krimatat Laxman in Afrikaans, because quite often they are associated with apparently baobabs, although I see them in a wide range of other habitats. Penelope, you're 100% right, and that's probably one of the most beautiful of the birds out here. I do like all things glossy and shiny when it comes to birds, and the glossy starlings and a number of other species such as sunbirds, which also has iridescent colorations. It always fascinates me that they can have such beautiful colors. And what I find quite amazing is that we conceive it as quite bright, but other birds that see those birds can see them even brighter, as the birds can see in the UV spectrum. Here's back on the grey go-away bird. For those of you that don't know, they actually get the name go-away because they quite often will create alarm calls for predators. It's still looking down to the ground in the same spot as where those other birds were calling. Although at the moment it's not giving a typical alarm call. And what I do find quite interesting is that they have two main calls, one for aerial predators and another call that they will generally use for ground predators. So quite often when you do look up into the air and it's a call for an aerial predator, such as a predatory bird, it's very likely that there's an eagle that's coming over. However, at the moment, it's just purely focused on what's going on beneath it. So actually it gets its name from the onomatopoeic call that it produces. It sounds like it says, go away, go away, go away. Just going to reposition the vehicle and see if we can get a better view of him. And hopefully we won't disturb him. There we go. A little bit of a better view, hopefully. He's now moving. It's going to go a little bit forward. We can get him in the camera for you. Okay, he's not playing along. He's just going higher and higher up in the tree. Okay, there we go. A fairly easy bird to identify. We consider them as medium to large size birds. A uniform grey in colour, as the name grey, and then go away implies that it's a go-away bird of a grey coloration. And then you'll notice that they've got a little crest on top of the head. They're not as beautiful as some of their counterparts. If we do often go into riverine areas, we find a beautiful Turocco, which is known as a purple-crested Turocco, which is a close relative to them. And they've got beautiful colorations of red and green. And those pigments are actually unique to the Turocco family. However, with the go-away birds and plantain eaters, which we find in East Africa, they're quite dull in colour compared to the rest of the Turocco family members. just going to move off. Most of our birds have now all moved off, and it seems that the potential threat has also moved away.
Look at this. The little one is up and about. Certainly hasn't had enough milk at this age. No amount of milk is enough. Oh, Corky. Too sweet. Oh, look at this. That is stunning.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply. In a world full of upheaval, we all need a quiet and safe space to breathe. A place where anxiety and stress don't exist. A place where life carries on as normal. Escape to nature with Wild Earth.
Okay guys, so the dogs have now decided to get up and move a little bit. Let me just go back for you so we can get a better view on them. I don't know if they're just choosing a different shady spot or what the situation is, but the alpha female, let's go forward rather, alpha female got up, and as is custom, all the others got up as well, like that. I don't know if it's hunger that's maybe driving them, or what is the situation, but they definitely can see, yeah, there's a little bit of a trot going. Maybe they are looking to start moving. We'll see now. Or they're just looking for a spot. I saw while I was walking on their tracks now, in the shade of the trees, there's quite a bit of flies and, you know, lots of insects and so on. So it might just be that is what's bugging them at the moment. But let's just do this. See if we can slowly go around the other way and get a better view on them. We'll see now where they went. There's one in the open now. So yeah, as you can see, there we go. There we not go. They're a little bit indecisive at the moment. Not entirely sure what they want to do. But have a look at those big ears, guys. Have a look at how beautiful those ears are. You know, for the dogs particularly, because they're not the tallest animals. And quite often in conditions like this, when it's summertime and, okay, now I'll go a little forward. Summertime and a little bushy, even when it comes to the grass, Lekker Maurits. They can't necessarily see where each other is going, hence the white tip on the tail, so that they use that as a sort of a follow me sign. And also, they vocalize quite a bit when hunting or when harassing a hyena or all of those sorts of things. Here we can see them now a little bit better. I know the shade is a little difficult now, guys, so just bear with us. It might be a little dark. The contrast is just crazy at the moment. To come back to the ears, so they vocalize quite a bit whilst hunting or whilst, teaming up against another predator or so on, so that they can constantly talk to each other and know what's going on. Herbie, not that I'm aware of. So I don't think that they can breed with domestic dogs. I don't think it's ever been tried. And I'm pretty sure they won't be able to be honest. If you absolutely force them, like put a wild dog male and a domestic female dog, I'm pretty sure there will be copulation at some point. Their drive to reproduce will just be too strong to not mate with one another. However, whether that'll be successful or not, I'm going to lie to you if I tell you yes or no. I've never heard of that being the case, that there was a successful mating, nor have I ever heard of anyone trying. I don't think it would be ethical for someone to try in any way. I do, however, know that they say that a wild dog is the only mammal in Africa that you cannot domesticate. Because with them having so much energy, you physically won't be able to give them enough attention to keep them tame. So with that being the case, I think that also answers our question about the mating. But like I said, don't know of an attempt ever, and I don't think there will ever be one, just because they need to keep the gene pool clean and true. So I don't think anyone will ever get that idea of trying to domesticate or mix breed with domestic dogs and wild dogs. So yeah, guys, this might be them getting up and moving around and getting up and moving around. It might be the start of them trying to get a little bit more active, but then the sun immediately pushing them back down again. So with that being the case, it's very possible that there might be an attempt to get active soon. Maybe they go to the water, bathe in the water a little bit, try to cool down like that, and then only when it cools down sufficiently, they will start moving like we had them yesterday. But yeah, we'll have to see. Like I said, it is very warm today, and with that being the case, they will So, Lionhead, how big can a pack get? The largest one that I personally know of, and I've seen with my own two eyes, was 37 dogs. That is huge for a dog pack, though. They are eventually had to break up themselves and form scatter groups and, start doing their own thing like that. So with that being the case, the largest one I've heard of and seen personally with my own two eyes is 37 adult dogs. They were called the Orphan pack in Kruger, and I saw them hunting one afternoon while I was working in the glaciere still, and it was just relentless. I mean, the animals just got smashed by these dogs, and as a result, I don't think there was enough food for them in a particular area to support a pack of dogs like that. So that's why they broke up. To have 37 adult dogs, you can imagine now when they've got pups, they'll go easily over 50 sometimes. And that's just too many mouths to feed. So, yeah, crazy. The average sized pack for a large pack is about, from what I've seen, is about anything between 12 and 20, which is going to be a good sized pack. But anything larger than that, I think it's that the responsibility of them is going to be quite high to continue providing for the dogs. All the individuals in the pack. So I'm pretty sure they're going to have to be anything around that. Ideally, we would want our pack to be anything between 15 and 20 dogs. Brenda, no, we don't have a name for this pack, and I don't think we will give it a name, seeing as that with most of our animals we don't name them, not even our lions. So with that being the case, the only named animals that we have in the or groups of animals that we have in the reserve is the two different prides, northern and southern pride, and that's purely because of the fact that the one operates in the north and the one operates in the south. So it's not like where we have in the Sabi Sands where you name the leopards and you name the coalitions of lions and all of those things. Those are mostly to ID different animals. Here we have only the one lodge and the one homestead or villa, but all is still Tswalu, so we don't need names to actively identify different individuals because all of the guides work for the same lodge or same team. So it's not like you have different lodges that need to know, okay, but that leopard was walking over there and this leopard is now over here and so on. Also, our leopard population is not that high, so we don't need one. So yeah, guys, we're going to stick with them for a little bit and then send you over to Tessa so long.
So this may not look like much from a distance, but this is where the elephants were this morning here at Anbion and Gala. And have a look. There is a lioness in the grass, and this is the lioness that we know has the den site here. So far, I have seen 2 of the cubs, and it's my first time meeting them. I'm so excited. There is apparently a throw in swing. And so we're sitting here quietly watching her, because those cubs have been in and out, and we're really hoping you get to get a glimpse of them coming out to Mom. So it's nice and cool, which is why she's out mostly in the open at the moment. And she came back to feed the cubs and check on them. I don't think she was here this morning. Elephants were here. And that played to her advantage and to the cubs' advantage, because the cubs know that with elephants around, they need to sit out in the middle of the spike-thorn thicket where she hid them. I don't think the elephants could smell them. So she is very relaxed. She looks up every now and then. But I'm really hoping the little cubs come out. They would come out from the right-hand side, from the side with her tail, and come out to the mom. Now these are the newest additions to the Birmingham Pride. And she's one of the oldest lionesses in the Pride. So she's a very experienced mother. You can see how the wind is blowing the grass. Jennifer, you're 8 years old. The difference between a male and female lion in terms of weight is about 100 kilograms on average. So a male lion can weigh up to about 250 kilograms. A lioness would weigh about 150 kilograms. However, with the Birmingham Pride in particular, and the Birmingham Breakaway Pride, which we see in the west at Anbion Ngala, these lionesses are larger than normal lionesses that we have seen in the other prides. And so I think these lionesses are actually closer to the 200 kilogram mark. They are incredibly large. In fact, when the Ross males took over this pride, when I had just started here at and Beyond in Gala 3 years ago, the lionesses, this one in particular, and her sister were actually bigger than the Ross males until they had fully filled in at their 250 kilogram average. So being able to sit at a den site is actually a very special thing. It takes youngsters a little while to get used to the vehicles, and this is exactly how we do it. We can see that Mom is here and she's comfortable, and so if we sit here quietly, if we sit here quietly, then they might come out, and they'll get more and more used to the vehicles being around them. But it's very important to us not to overwhelm any new cubs, any new babies within any species. So we're very, very strict on that. If Mom is not here, we don't sit here and watch. And if Mom is here, we only have one vehicle here at a time. Diane lionesses would usually have 3 or 4 cubs at a time. There is a very high mortality rate in lion cubs in particular, so only about 50% of them would actually get to around 2 years old. If they're males, only 1 in 4, 25% of them will make it to adulthood if they're lucky. So they usually have an average of 3 or 4. What we often see happening is a lioness might have 3 or 4 that we see for a while, and then as they get older, you'll find that only 2 survive. And that can be due to a lot of reasons. It could be due to other lions coming in. It could be due to things like hyenas or leopards finding the den site if Mom's not there. It could also be more natural or more subtle things like disease or even cold or starvation. With this storm rolling in, she will probably stay with her cubs, away from the rest of the pride, to make sure that they're safe. And also the fact that she's on the bank of the river, if this river does start to flow, you can see she's really not that far from the waterline or from the grass reaching to the soil part or the sandy part of the river. And so she knows that if this river starts coming down, she's going to have to move those cubs. And so that could be why she's actually back here. Oh, she's beautiful. She is definitely one of the biggest lionesses I have ever seen. Her and her sister, in fact, I think are the 2 biggest I have ever seen in my life. And back to resting. Eats in her stomach is quite rounded, even you can see it. And when she rolled over, I could quite clearly see her teats, her nipples, that the cubs have been suckling from. It was very overwhelming for me when we got here to see her, and she actually had 2 of the little cubs out with her. And it's the first time that I've met them, so I had a bit of a freak out reaction with Sebastian. So we'll need new members of the pride. And it's also a big relief as well, knowing that there were over 100 elephants here this morning. Renee, it was a possibility that some of these cubs might be born white. However, the 3 that we have seen and that Rowan has seen have all been the tawny color. They've all been the color of the mother. Doesn't mean they don't have the white gene. They very well could, because she is actually the mother of one of the white cubs, the older ones. But it just means that maybe if they did get the gene, they got only one of the genes and not both. And they need both to come out looking white. It's a recessive gene or a less dominant gene than the tawny color, which is the dominant gene. And so if you only get one of the white gene, you won't actually show as white, but you could still have white cubs. Unfortunately, this time around, we don't have any white cubs in this litter that we have seen. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to stay here a while and see if these little cubs come out of the den site. And if they do, I will definitely do my best to show them to you, but I'll send you over to Tswalu with their sleeping wild dogs.
So yeah, guys, dogs still down. Not really have any plans. Well, they don't really have any plans at the moment to move around too much. That is up to the alpha female. Doesn't matter how warm it is though. If they do decide they want to move, or if she decides she wants to move, the rest of the pack will follow. But every time there's a vehicle that moves or so, you see the one just paying a little bit of attention, maybe getting up, going to a different spot of shade and so on. However, you can see them dropping down again, yeah. So, very, very lazy at the moment, as is understandable. But yeah, just for the dogs, you know, each and every one of them has unique markings, just like a leopard would do. Michelle, so we've got the collars on the wild dogs because they are very much endangered throughout Africa. They're one of our most endangered species of predator. And with that being the case, we constantly need to keep an eye on how they're doing and where they're going and so on. You know, it's not every day that we follow these dogs, so on the game drives now. So when we are not following them and seeing that they're doing well, or there's one with a little injury or any of those things, the conservation team needs to keep track of their movements. So 3 of the dogs have got collars on which you can track with a telemetry kit. So those little antenna thingies that go beep, which gives you an indication of which direction they are in, and then you can locate them like that. And then the one has a satellite collar on, along with a telemetry kit. So every time the satellite comes over, it'll give out a signal, and we will be able to see that the dogs are still moving or so. So once we see, okay, that location hasn't moved for, let's say, 24 hours, the guys, or let's say 12 hours, because they typically don't stay in one place for more than a day. The conservation team will then go out and have a look to see if everything is all right, and if they are not maybe just on a kill, or if there's one that's got an injury, or maybe they're denning or so on, you know. So then we can just keep track of every single movement that they do make. And if there should be something strange happening, like the location not moving from one day to another, then you can actually go and investigate and just make sure that everything is okay. So that's the reason why the dogs are collared. Also, with them being a newly formed pack, and not necessarily being able to, hunting that well, they then need to also just make sure that they do take down something every now and again. Lazy boy, you're absolutely right. They've got beautiful, beautiful markings, and like I've mentioned just now, each and every one of them unique like a fingerprint. So you can actually actively identify different individuals by just looking at their markings. With this pack only being 4 dogs at the moment, we don't even have to look at the markings. The 2 males are very easy to identify. The lighter colored one is the alpha, and the darker colored one is the beta male. And then with the females, it's even easier. The alpha female's got a floppy ear on her right. Her right ear is a floppy ear, so she can't fully erect it to make it that nice round shape. So with that being the case, we use those means to identify them rather easily. But typically, the easiest is to look at, if you don't necessarily have those characteristics like a floppy ear or one visibly darker than the other, also you can look at the white spots on the animal's body. You know, the black and the yellow is very abundant or very common, but the white markings are typically quite unique. Not the ones on the tips of the tail there. the rest of the body. So you won't really get one having a white marking that's exactly the same and the same location as one of the other dogs. So that's what we use to ID them. But just stunning coloration. I mean, you're absolutely right. They are truly beautiful. You can see why they call them the painted wolf of Africa. Looks like someone threw them with balloons that's got paint in it. You know, all these blotches. It's just stunning. True artwork. Hopefully, when the sun starts going down and we get that golden light, they'll come out into the light, and then we can get even a better look at their coat. Stephen, so the main difference is wild dogs are canines, descendant from wolves, and then the hyenas are not dogs at all. Neither are they cats. They're part of their own family, Hyenidae. So their closest relatives, land-based, is actually a bear. That's why we call their little ones cubs. But okay, if you had to look at them, hyena much larger than the wild dogs, about almost, well, in some cases, almost 60 kilograms larger. Typically the dogs weigh anything around 25, maybe 30 kilos for a large male. So much smaller than the female spotted hyenas, which can go up to 90 kilograms. Then the coloration is quite a bit different. The hyenas only have that grayish-brown coloration with the spots on their body, and then short tails with quite a bulgy-looking back, you know, well, not bulge, but sloping down towards the hindquarters. So hind legs shorter than the front legs, which give them that typical hyena body structure. Excellent for endurance, though, whereas the dogs, their legs are typically equal-lengthed or equally in length, and they have those yellow, black, and white blotches on their body. Also, the hyenas, you'll find that all of the individuals, female individuals within a clan, will have cubs. There's no such thing as a particular ranking order, and only the alphas get to mate and so on. With the hyenas, regardless of your ranking order, the females will all have cubs, and the cubs will inherit the mom's rank. So if you're the matriarch of the group, the cubs that get born from that female will be the highest rank. And then so same thing with the lowest ranking female. The lowest ranking female's cubs will be of a very low rank in the clan. Whereas with the wild dogs, they are cooperative breeders, so it's only the alpha male and alpha female that will breed. In very rare occasions, you'll find the beta female getting pregnant as well. Very, very seldomly. But typically, you'll find the alpha female having pups, and all of the rest of the pack will help raise that litter of pups. So yeah, and there's many other differences. Their hunting style is probably the closest to one another when it comes to the hyenas and the dogs. They both run down the animals using endurance, and then they eat their animals alive. So they kill the animals by eating. But apart from that, there's quite a lot of differences. But yeah, guys, we're gonna stick with these dogs. The breeze is starting to cool down now, so hopefully not too long from now they'll also start getting active. But yeah, if there's anything that happens, we'll let you know, okay?
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. And for the moment, we're just taking a little break and we're watching the weather rolling in. And we also just admiring the beautiful leadwood tree that's in front of us. So this is the remains of a tree that potentially could have reached 1,000 years or so. The tree, as it's called, is a leadwood, and because of the wood being fairly dense and heavy, and it roughly weighs in at somewhere around by 1,250 kilograms per cubic square meter, so approximately half of the weight of concrete per cubic square meter. So these trees often have the ability of standing for over 100 years after that they've actually died. Because the wood is so hard and so resilient, there's actually very few insects which can actually break this down. Not even termites can feed on it. And one of the ways that it actually does get back as nutrients into an ecosystem is quite often fire. It creates a very fine powdery, white ash, and that ash is quite often collected by people, and especially in African culture, it was often used for whitening teeth by simply dipping your finger into the ash and then just rubbing it onto your teeth itself. However, some of the European settlers used to also use it. They used to mix it with milk, and then they would use this combination of milk and the white ash as a whitewash for the buildings to give it a new paint, a layer of paint. So in Afrikaans, we refer to this tree as hardekool, which means a hard coal, because it makes excellent firewood as well. However, in the earlier years, this was one of the trees that were quite commonly collected for firewood once they have fallen over. But in recent years, that practice has been stopped as firewood and wood that lies in a natural environment also plays a very important part of a natural ecosystem as food for a number of insects, and also that they can recycle that back as nutrients, which will then become available to plants.
Sitting with this lioness at her den site here at and beyond Ngala. She's been moving around quite a bit, repositioning and getting comfortable with her breeze and her leg up. And I think it's been lying in the same spot for quite a while. The ground has warmed up underneath her. And so she's trying to cool herself by exposing her stomach, which is the thinnest hair on her body, to that breeze. But you can really see how prominent that white. I think if you were going by here in a rush and she was lying flat on her side, so. But with that paw up, it certainly makes it a lot easier. So at the moment, we think these youngsters are only between 5.5 tongue twister. And so they're still very young. But you can see she's chosen a very good spot. The bush to her right is where the cubs are. And it's very thick. It's called spike thorn. And there is no chance of seeing in there at all. And it's covered in thorns, which means that not much is actually going to risk going in there. So she must have found a little hole that she could climb into, and she hid the cubs in there. And she's just lying at the entrance now. And she's chosen a very good spot as well, because she's in a small little dip, which means the wind is going to swirl a bit there. It's not going to go straight through. But have a little extra element of safety, being a little bit more hidden in that little, almost like a small drainage line back down into the river. So it's definitely a game of patience sitting at a den site. And it's always something that we're very excited and willing to do, to get a glimpse of little cubs. And I'm really hoping to see little heads and ears popping out over her stomach just now. I can actually still hear an elephant or two in the distance. There's some low rumbling happening, occasionally a breaking branch. And you can see Mom's not actually bothered by that at all. She hasn't moved her ears. So she knows the difference between an elephant quite far away and an immediate threat, which might be close by. This lioness is almost 12 to 13 years old now. My lion sighting, oh, it's a tough one. I would say one of my most memorable ones was seeing the initial white lion cub that we had here on Ngala that was actually killed by the Ross males when they first started taking over the pride. It was in a spike-thorn thicket similar to this one, and it was a lot further west down the riverbed, and we were sitting, and I actually had some guests with me here at Beyond Ngala, and I'd heard about it, but I hadn't really let it sink in. And all of a sudden, this little white cub came tumbling down. It was almost like on a little embankment. And this little white cub came tumbling down into the riverbed. And the other little ones followed. And it was just mind-blowing for me to see this thing actually in person. Think, okay, it's going to be a bit pale. And he was snow white, like cotton wool. These really beautiful blue eyes. I think that one will stick with me forever. But I think any time that you get to see lion cubs or any action from the lions, we've had a lot of sightings of even, the older lions. The other day I saw the Birmingham sub-adults climbing a tree. And that's one of my favorite sightings of the Birmingham Pride in particular. Because you just don't get to see it often, and they were falling out of the tree, and the white lions were trying and were not succeeding. So to see that happening and unfold in front of us. But there've been so many, it's actually really, really hard to choose. I've actually got a book of sightings in, and it's something that I think I will always cherish, is having those sightings and knowing exactly what I've been through. And sometimes it can be a smell, a sound, and you think of it straight away. My memory book is very full, and yet there always seems to be space for more. I've also had a very special sighting of the Birmingham young male when he was around 2 years old, and the Ross males were still at that point really adamant they were going to kick him out of the pride, and actually the white lions were in the sighting as well. And he was getting up to walk in between my vehicle and the Ross male to move over to where the cubs were. And the Ross male didn't like his walking to him, and he actually attacked him. And it was quite close to me. It actually swiped past me here where I don't have a door. And my guests at the time actually caught it on video. And it was just an incredible feeling to have them right next to me like that and witnessing the power. And then all of a sudden it was like the calm after the storm. Everyone was dead quiet. The cubs had all scattered. They all started coming back. And it's something that really burns into the memory. So we're going to stay here a little bit longer and just see what this lioness does. Maybe the cubs are starting to have a nap. But I'm going to send you over to Pridelands with some antelope over there.
Good afternoon and welcome back again to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we're in a plains area that's known as Impala Plains. Wherever we look at, there's impalas, there's some zebra, and we also have giraffe that just came through here. We're just enjoying the wide variety of different species diversity here at the moment. Let's go and see what all these animals are up to. So quite often what you do find is that animals will move into open plains areas like this, especially now that the wind is picking up. Often what does happen is that the smell becomes, the hearing gets compromised and the smell becomes compromised with the wind, so they rather rely on sight. There's a giraffe that's frolicking around over there. I'm not quite sure what he's up to. There's also a wildebeest, a blue wildebeest right in front of him. It seems as if he's actually having a little bit of a fun moment at one stage, chasing around the zebras. So let's watch him and see what he gets up to. look a little bit closer, there's also a number of oxpeckers that really would like to sit on him. Maybe he's trying to get rid of the oxpeckers. So for those of you who know what an oxpecker is, it's a bird that specializes in feeding on ticks. There are two of the species in this area. They're known as a yellow as well as a red-billed oxpecker. In a way, they do favor to the animals by removing parasites off their coat. Sometimes they also create a little bit of problems by actually opening up wounds on the coat of the animal and allowing flies to go and lay their eggs inside there. And quite often what will happen in return again is that the oxpeckers will then feed on the fly or maggots that then breeds out in that wounds. We also find quite often that they will go into the ears of animals and they will also consume some earwax. One of the only two birds groups I know about that can consume and digest wax. The other species are the honeyguides that has the ability to digest wax. Eyes are again relaxed, back and eating. And there he goes again. I've never ever seen a giraffe actually doing this, but it seems as if the zebras are actually annoying him. Maybe, but I'm also not 100% sure. Maybe it's the oxpeckers that are annoying him. These animals for a little bit longer, see what they get up to, but in the meanwhile we're going to hand you over to Maurits, which is busy enjoying a sighting with some wild dog at Tswalu.
So guys, we're just trying to figure out what's going on. We had the dogs just doing a little bit of a bark now, and they seem to be, well, some of them seem to be looking around quite a bit, so I don't know if they picked up on a funny smell or a strange noise or maybe saw something that we're not seeing. But it definitely seemed like something upset them, even if it was just briefly. We have now chosen to follow their advice, moved a little bit further away. We're sitting in the shade as well. And just waiting for them to start getting active, but it would be interesting to see if there is something that comes through. Maybe that spotted hyena or something like that. That would make life very interesting to see how they respond to her. Her preferred waterhole is evidently this one, so when she does come to have a drink, you know, when she leaves the den side, the spotty now, she does come to this one. So it's very possible that she might be heading this way, or she may have also laid down somewhere close to here and she's starting to make her way to the waterhole, or, you know, it could just be something that moved past quickly and they weren't prepared for seeing the movement or hearing the sound or so on. I'm not seeing any other general game in the area at the moment, so not quite sure. It could be a lizard that also just ran past. They do seem to be relaxed now. The one individual keeps popping his head up, but he's jumpy by nature, the beta male. So we've learned to ignore him sometimes just when he jumps up unnecessarily. However, the two females definitely paid quite a bit of attention as well. So with that being the case, our curiosity was triggered to try and see what is going on, but I'm not seeing anything at the moment, so it might have just been something small, a bug or something that gave them a fright. You know, sometimes they get a fright for their own shadow as well. Animals are funny like that. There's quite a bit of dung beetles flying around. As you can imagine, with it being close to a waterhole, there's a lot of traffic that comes through here during the day. So, things like dung beetles have a royal time around here with all the giraffe and gemsbok and eland and all of those things that come through. There's quite a lot of dung pellets that's lying around for them to be able to form a ball and then lay their eggs in that to go and bury somewhere. So it's very possible that there was one of those guys that flew past just quickly. But yeah, still very flat. You can see the flies and so on are irritating them quite a bit. Those tails are working overtime. Like I've mentioned earlier, the insect activity in the shade is very high at the moment, purely because of the heat. And unfortunately for the dogs, they have to choose between dealing with the flies or laying in the sunlight. And, you know, I think they chose right. I'd rather have a fly around me at the moment than sit in the sun. But yeah, this sun seems to slowly start creeping behind the clouds. You can see the light just dimming a little bit, so that should cool it down as well. Alton, just repeat that. How does a wild dog identify a pack? Am I right? Martin, okay, with the wild dogs, I'm assuming you are talking about its pack specifically. They don't need to actively identify it. They are together always. If there is one that should get separated, they immediately start contact calling. And they find one another within, let's say, an hour. So they very seldomly get split off from their pack, get lost and don't find one another again. If that is the case, it is going to be a case of smell, definitely. And also, they spend so much time with one another. The bond between the dogs within a particular pack is so strong that their markings, the specific markings on each dog within its pack will be ingrained or engraved into that dog's memory. So just by looking at the individuals within the pack, he'll be able to identify them as well. But mainly if, like, let's say he needs to find them and they're too far away that they can't hear one another contact calling anymore, which, like I said, shouldn't happen. But if it does, he will use smell to locate and identify which pack to follow, if there is maybe two packs in the area or so on. It does happen because dogs don't really have a territory. They've got home ranges and they do overlap with one another, so you will find different packs in the same area moving around. So they will sometimes bump into each other. However, like I said, the chances of them mixing with a different pack because they got confused with who is their pack and who not is super, super low. I almost want to say impossible, but I mean, as we know in the bush, impossible, never and always are words that we don't use. So if they had to, smell, vocalization, and then visual identification, they'll use all three of those, but I'd say definitely vocalization because they won't be far away from one another. Where are you seeing it? Craig says he's seeing a tortoise. Jacqueline, yes, they do. They do have fleas just like normal dogs. They get ticks like normal dogs as well. I want to say they'll most likely have more ticks on their body than they'll have fleas. However, they'll have both. You know, we are particularly blessed in this particular area, well, in Tswalu, because we have such cold winters. The ectoparasite load is quite low. So with that being the case, where you would be very paranoid about getting ticks on you in the low veld when walking through the grass and so on, especially during summertime. Like, I mean, there you do a 5-meter walk and you could have 40 ticks on you or more. Out here, I've been here through 2 summer times now, and I don't recall ever having a tick on me. So we actually very lucky with that being the case. I've seen ticks on the animals though, so they are here, but in very low amounts. So yeah, they will have ticks and fleas on their body just like a domestic dog. However, out here I feel like the animals are generally quite, I almost want to say, blessed with the amount of parasites on their body, on their skin. There's not a lot of it because of the cold winters. You know, they don't particularly enjoy having -8, -10 degrees Celsius. Oh yeah. Sorry guys, I didn't even notice the tortoise. That's what they were. I'm pretty sure that's what they were barking at. It was behind the bushes for me, but I just heard Craig giggle now, and I had a look on the screen, and now I'm actually seeing the tortoise upsetting the dogs a little bit. It is a leopard tortoise, though. You'll see he's quite a bit more pale. And so with that being the case, you know, out here, there's just not enough cover for them to be in the shade all the time right throughout the year. So the sun does take quite an effect on the animals, or on the tortoise's carapace or shell, and that causes it to be a little bit more dull in color. And also, as you can imagine, with it being the Kalahari, it makes sense for them to be a bit more dull because they blend in better. But yeah, definitely not something the dogs are comfortable with. It's quite funny. Something like a tortoise chasing around the most successful hunter in Africa. Who would have thought that would be the case? Hopefully these dogs will now be motivated to maybe go to the waterhole, go and play. Yeah, I can see them coming onto the clearing now. So that would be great if they go and play in the water a little bit, or do anything a little bit more active than what we've seen them now. I just want to give them some room to, you know, properly get out onto the clearing, and then we'll go a little closer and see what they are up to. There we go. Let's go and have a look. Peter, so no, a wild dog wouldn't, for the pure fact that their jaws would not be strong enough to be able to crack open the carapace of a tortoise. So they wouldn't consider that as a food source if they are very hungry. Maybe they'll play with it a little bit, but I mean, we've even seen lions trying to and not being successful. Hyenas as well, you know, even though they've got a jaw strong enough, the pure fact that carapace is so round and so smooth, they can't get a hold of the shell to try and crack it open. So no, the dogs won't consider it as a food source. As you've just seen, it actually chases them around quite a bit. And these dogs are hungry. They, from what we know, haven't had a proper meal in, we think now, 3 days. If they did catch something, it would have been like a hare or something like that. But apart from that, not a substantial meal like a warthog or a steenbok or something, larger. So if it was going to be the case, this was going to be the situation where we would have seen that. So yeah, guys, for now we're going to just see if these dogs are going to get a tiny bit more active than they are doing right now. If they start playing in the water or so, we'll come back here. For the meantime, we're going to send you over to Steve, okay?
Welcome back, everybody, and I'm terribly sorry for my long absence. Last time you saw us, we had that track of a lioness, and we tried to follow, and we got properly stuck. And for the last, I don't actually know how long, there have been a few people trying to help us, but we've been stuck in the drainage line not far from where these lions have been feeding. So it was very delicate work trying to get the vehicle out, and they killed something. So I apologize if you are not up for sensitive sort of material, but the lions have killed something. I don't know what it is. They've been feeding on it from the moment we got stuck. It was possibly a water buck, but there's not much left. Talamati pride in the very, very long grass. So that one track that we had was heading directly towards them. And I think some of the adults had caught the water buck and the rest were following. So we do apologize for our absence for this entire time. But thank you to Tristan, who came to give me a hand, and one of the other landowners. It was a team effort getting us out. So I've joined the Marshmallow Club now twice in as many days. Very embarrassing, but it is what it is. The Marshmallow Club, for those of you who don't know what it is if you get stuck in the mud or anywhere and you need to call for assistance. And a couple of days ago I was on Chitwa, and my right front wheel fell in a hole. I didn't actually call for help because there was another vehicle with us at the time that helped us. So I don't know if that's calling for help, but help was required to get us out. And help was definitely required today. Thank you to Johan from Bafosuk and Michelle, their lodge manager, as well as Tristan for their assistance. Team mobilized to come to our help. You keep quiet for a moment and allow you to listen to the sounds. Lions are all around here. In the long grass, I can't count all of them. I've got visual of 1, 2, 3. Okay, that looks like a young. Can you see the foot there? And Paul, let me just move forward. I'm going to be very careful going forward. It looks all right. Do not want to get stuck again. Can you see the foot? Looks like a young buffalo to me. Can you see the leg? Could be a water buck. No, you can't really see it very well. Let me just reposition just slightly. So I'm really happy and bold. As far as I'm going forward, I'm afraid. I don't want... The grass is so long, that's the problem. It's very easy to fall into holes. Oh, look, you see the tendon of the leg working. Sorry if you're not into that sort of thing, everybody. That's a water buck. Looks like it, the way it's splaying. I've never noticed a water buck's foot being so brown. always thought of waterbucks being very grey. Very hard to say. Just seeing the foot. Wildebeest, perhaps? Let's see the bottom of the foot. Whatever it was, there was a substantial enough meal to fill most of them. They were all looking quite satisfied. Hello, Fernandez, age 7. You want to know why lions have manes? Well, you'll notice that none of these have full manes. There's a couple of the youngsters, young males, that have got a mane. And there's a couple of reasons for a mane. You only find it in males. One of the reasons is that the mane develops in the boys and it shows their maturity. It gets thicker and denser with age, sometimes gets even darker. And what that does is it makes the male look a lot bigger. It also makes him look a little bit more scary, makes him look stronger, makes him look more formidable. So when a male that's maybe 4, 5 or 6 sees a male that's 2 or 3, the younger male who's almost got no mane sees that guy and immediately knows he's got more experience than me. I'm going to move away. So it often will eliminate the need for a male to have a fight just because he looks big and strong. Now, the second reason is that the mane actually protects around the neck and head region, especially around the throat, where lions have, or where we all have, veins and capillaries, and the jugular. And it's a very, very easy place to get bitten or clawed. And if you get injuries there, you can bleed out. So it works as a cushioning and defense. When they fight, they hit each other around the head and face, and so it acts as sort of a cushion. So those are two of the major reasons. And we find sometimes young males coming into sort of their prime and something goes on and they lose their mane to lack of testosterone or poor condition. And so ideally they're not in the best prime of their life, and so they're not as favorable to females, and they're often chased off by other males. So the mane is worn by the main man, that makes sense. And the bigger and thicker and darker it is, the maner he looks, if that makes any sense. But there have been records of maneless male lions, but it's not very common. Yeah, it looks like a wildebeest, everybody. Looks like a wildebeest foot over there. The waterbuck's got a very heart-shaped foot, so it looks like a sub-adult wildebeest. That's definitely not going to see the morning.
Do you dream of traveling to a far-flung wilderness location where life continues as normal? A place where you can escape to nature and breathe. If you become a Wild Earth explorer, then this could soon become a reality. Subscribe today and stand a chance to win regular travel prizes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Welcome to my car. This is Wendy, and she's my favorite. She would love to have your name engraved on her so you can be with her every single time she goes on a safari here in Djuma. If you become a Wild Earth Explorer, you will have the opportunity to buy an engraved tag which we will attach to her. We will make sure to send you a digital picture to show you exactly where you are sitting on her. You will have front row seat in every single sighting.
Our first Wild Earth Explorers competition has closed, and we have a winner. Congratulations to Chantal Sleep from Benoni in South Africa.
I felt totally overwhelmed for winning this prize. I will be taking my son with me, and I can't wait to share this experience with him.
Chantal and her son have won a behind-the-scenes Wild Earth experience at the magnificent and beyond Ngala tented safari camp. The prize includes a 3-night stay and a chance to sleep out in the unique Ngala treehouse.
I would like to thank Wild Earth for making this dream come true, and I encourage everybody to subscribe, to become an explorer, and stand the chance to win these amazing prizes. and so much more.
For this month, we have a brand new prize. You could be jetting off to Tswalu in the Kalahari for a 3-night stay at the luxurious Motsi Lodge. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite animal in the Kalahari has to be the aardvark. Its unique appearance, its ethology, and as well as ecology within this vast ecosystem is amazing, and something that I have been really lucky to experience on foot here at Tswalu.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
So guys, yeah, as expected, they came to have a quick sip of water and then drop down in the shade again. It is cooling down now quite a bit, I have to say. Okay, we're also sitting in the shade now, so when that is the case, it is a little cooler. We did attract some spectators, though. We'll show you in a moment. Have a look at how nice that is now that they are in the open. You can see them much better. Still the fly is bugging them though, but the fact that the dogs came out into the open caused the giraffe to come and have a look at what's going on. I do think that they were on their way in anyway, but just on this side you can see they're now having a look at and checking out what the dogs are doing and a little bit of what we are doing and so on. I'm quite interested about what is the case. That one there at the back is stretching his neck longer. He doesn't want to he doesn't want to come closer, so he's stretching his neck out. It's just beautiful. Chris, so there's nothing really that preys on wild dogs. They do have enemies, however, so if you're looking for something that's going to eat them when they die, that'll be the hyenas or the scavengers. So hyenas, things like the jackals, those types of things, the known scavengers, vultures and so on, if they die. But apart from that, they don't have things that actively go and hunt them for food. Typically the predators will not really target other predators as a food source, but they've got many enemies though, because they are the smallest of the large predators. You'll find that something like hyenas, the lions, a leopard if it gets the chance, however that seldomly happens because a leopard is always by itself, and then also things like regardless of the species of herbivore, the larger herbivores, things like a buffalo and those types of things, they will also, if they get the opportunity, kill it. For the predators, they'll kill them because they want to cancel out competition for food. And then for the herbivores, they'll kill them because that's one less predator to worry about. You don't often see buffalo and so on killing dogs, though. They're just too fast. And you also don't see the wild dogs going for adult buffalo, so they don't put themselves in harm's way. However, things like lions and hyenas are mostly the problem for these guys when it comes to getting killed. Most likely more the lions, because hyenas are not particularly fast over a short distance, so the dogs can outmaneuver them. But with the lions, they've got a relatively fast charge, much faster than what a dog can run. So if they can surprise them and, charge at them and, get to them without them being able to jump away or so, they'll definitely kill them. But as far as, predation on the dogs go, there's no real predators. Maybe, now that I'm thinking about it, raptors, birds of prey, they'll go for the pups. A very good mate of mine has actually, while he was sitting at a a wild dog den site, witnessed a martial eagle grabbing one of the pups. So that, yes, that might happen. But apart from the large raptors and possibly the larger owls, you won't really find something that predates on them. Okay, then maybe a African rock python as well. You know, as you think about these things, the animals pop into your head. But predators, not really. As far as things like lions and so on is concerned, they won't kill them because they want to eat them. They'll kill them because they want their competition to be away. And the giraffe are edging ever closer. Devin, so wild dogs typically prefer hunting during the day. More crepuscular speaking, so when I say crepuscular, it means early in the morning and late in the afternoon, just after sunrise and just before sunset. Well, maybe just after sunset, before it becomes completely dark. However, if they are very hungry, you will find them hunting during the warm part of the day, and then during full moon, you'll also see them hunt, because then the light is sufficient enough for them. Well, when the moon is bright, not necessarily only full moon, but when the moon is bright, they'll also hunt when they can see at night time. But their night vision is not great, so they need the moon to be quite bright for them to be able to see. But when you think about when a dog should hunt, from what we've seen, you know, on average, they hunt early in the morning and late in the afternoon, while it's light and while it's nice and cool still. So that's when they will concentrate their hunting activity. But like I said, there's not any time in the bush that you can say they will never hunt during the middle of the day, or they will never hunt at night, or those types of things. The animals have a way of surprising you when you least expect it. But those are the two times, you know, early morning, late afternoon, that they should be. Just make it, because they do have the better day vision than night vision. They'll definitely prefer moving or hunting during the day or when the sun is shining. And early in the morning and late in the afternoon, it's still cool enough for them to travel and not to spend too much energy. Imagine, you know, out here in the Kalahari quickly, midsummer we have 40, 42, sometimes 45 degrees Celsius. Imagine having to run for kilometers at a time to try and hunt during the middle of the day. I mean, you would literally pass out if it was a human, if you had to run like that for too long. You'd dehydrate, spend a lot of energy, and you'd overheat. So with the dogs, that would be exactly the same situation. I mean, even now, it has started cooling down. And they are still, even though they are hungry, they are still taking the time to rest and not be too active, saving the energy for when it's cooling down and when they can start moving and when it makes sense for them to move. If there's, while they're lying here, something that comes in, even though they feel it's still too warm, they'll go and try something, but they won't go and actively hunt or look for something to hunt while it's still warm. Olamua, it is a beautiful scene. You are absolutely right. We are very, very blessed with the scenery around here, and any scene with a wild dog in it is a truly special one. So, no, you are definitely right. For that matter, any scene in the Kalahari is actually special, but the wild dogs just make it a little bit more special. You know, guys, I don't know if you realize how lucky we are to, well, not only see this ourselves, but also be able to share it with you. There's less than, well, around 5,000 dogs, wild dogs, left in Africa, of which more dogs are in captivity, so rehabilitation centers or places where they are actively monitored and preserved, than in the wild. So even just to be able to see 4 of the 5,000 like this is a real privilege. And in the environment where they're supposed to be doing what they're supposed to be doing, not being in an enclosure, you know, even though I understand why those dogs are there, I prefer seeing them like this. Lots of bird activity also around the waterhole and around that salt block and so on. See all the birds flying up now. So yeah, guys, for the time being, while they are lazy, we're going to send you over to Tristan so long, okay? As soon as they start moving, then we'll come back here.
Well, unfortunately, the dogs that were on Chitwa this morning are long gone. They were relocated somewhere near Coral and then went into Torchwood from there. So right far east, close to the KNP boundary. So that's not going to be an option. I'm just now in the kind of trying to search for Tundi and the cub. Obviously, we went to go and help Steve, so we haven't been in the area for too long. I'm just checking around, trying to see. It doesn't sound like anyone's managed to find her this afternoon, which means whatever kill she was on must have been very small and is now finished. It's quite common for her, especially with the size of that cub as it's growing, if she's catching something like a small impala, and she's caught it early last night. By now, that, you know, it would have been absolutely destroyed. It's been cool weather today, it's perfect conditions to have a really good feed and then just go and rest somewhere. So I'm just scratching around. I'm going to go and check where I found them the other day in the Mulawanini. I'm hoping that they'll be somewhere in that area. I was just doing a loop round in case Tundi was just on a scent marking patrol. Sometimes she likes to move around and scent mark and do her thing. Nicoline, all these animals are aware of our presence. They know 100% where we are, what we're doing. I mean, we, in terms of the bush, are very, very noisy in these vehicles. Most animals out here are quiet. They don't move around too much, so they know that we're here. It's why some leopards run away when they first come across vehicles. If they come out of an area like the Kruger National Park, where they've spent very little time, well, then, you know, they don't know any better. They only know that vehicles are on roads and they don't go off-road, and they're very nervous of that. So, you know, it just really depends on the leopard, but they are hugely aware of our presence. They just choose to tolerate us, which is nice. I always like when they tolerate us. Makes our lives a whole lot easier. I see lots of tracks here and off-road tracks. I wonder if this is not where the kill was. Maybe our little cub is somewhere in this area. This is where I had them the other day, so I'm just going to check. There's a little water point in front here, so we'll check that water point to make sure there's nothing there. If nothing there, we'll check the drainage line and the fallen over tree. It's a great place for a cub to hide. If nothing there, then we'll go to those tracks that go to those trees and just see if I can find any sign of them there. Now, talking about animals that are aware of us, I'm pretty sure the Talamati Pride was very aware of Steve and I when we were trying to get him out. So let's send you across to Steve and see if they've settled down a bit.
They definitely know we're here. They're not bothered at all, though. So we have officially seen horns. So it is a waterbuck. I've never seen a waterbuck with such a brown sock before, everybody. So that's quite interesting. I suppose we're never really looking at their feet and the legs, but everything's calmed down. The big waterbuck bull is definitely fills the gap for a little bit. But we can't, unfortunately, show you much of a better view at the moment. A few of them have moved off into the long grass, and you can see how tall that is. It's how we lost them earlier, walking through. My own fault, though, for mocking them for a moment, that they couldn't track their own family. And then they did with their nose. Then we were lucky coming across that track, but then unfortunately not that lucky. So we got to hear lots of activity for some time. And Paul definitely said a few prayers, didn't you, Paul? The first time you find yourself sort of in a helpless situation, a vehicle stuck, and you can hear lions feeding, you feel a bit daunted, I suppose. It's a bit of a daunting experience. Hannah, they can eat a lot of the bones, but not the big, strong, heavy-set bones. Most of the spinal cord, hip bones, and some of the sort of stronger leg bones on adults would be left alone. But if this pride got a young waterbuck, for example, they would probably be able to eat the whole thing. They do have powerful teeth, but not as powerful as hyena. Hyena will be able to eat the majority of it, but they're really thick ossified bones, which are designed for strength and for keeping an animal's body strong, are not easily broken by lions. But the very soft ones and the ribs, the jawbone, that often is eaten. But most of the larger bones are left for the scavengers. It's where the hyenas started initially, many eons ago. And it's where hyenas do quite well on the landscape, because there's always bones lying around that they can access. No, they can eat the hooves. And they also like stomach content sometimes. There goes a bone. I've found in a lion's vomit, because when lions eat like this as a pride, they take in all the jagged bones. You see how that's a little bit of, looks like a bit of a shoulder blade, I think. Now the lions will be able to nibble and chew the edges of that, but they won't be able to break the entire thing. So I've seen impala hooves in lion regurgitation, because they eat so quickly that they just inhale everything. They don't have time to chew it, so bones and fur and hooves will go in if they're small enough to do so. Look at that belly. Oh, have you not had enough? They'll definitely go in, but then they're not easily digested. So lions will feed on grass to help them to bring that up. It brings up all the fur and undigestible bone as well as hoof. Hyena are capable of breaking down the bone in their scat. It comes out in a very broken down powdery form. So those are the little bits and pieces that the scavengers will come and pick up. I've even found scapulars like that in tawny eagle nests. Not in the nest itself, but on the floor after being discarded by the chicks. They'll bring back all sorts of tidbits to the nest. But then hyena will also move through and feed on whatever's left behind. Miley, I don't have those numbers, I'm afraid. Lions bite quite powerfully, but hyena definitely is more powerful. I'm sure there's information somewhere out there that gives the exact bite force. I don't know how they go about exactly getting it. But a very powerful animal. They're able to bite down quite powerfully. The muscles attached to the top of the head. think hippo and crocodile are quite up there on the bite force radar with hyena. But for their size, hyena have got the most powerful bite force. If you had to make a hyena the size of a hippo, it would definitely be able to do some serious damage. But it's not just the bite force that the lion or the leopard has that's powerful. The canine penetration is where the danger lies. Teeth are designed for puncturing, shattering bone, perfectly designed tools. The killing teeth. Well, there you can see how close we are in the long grass with the lions. I hope you're all having a wonderful afternoon. We're just super excited that we got out because it was feeling a little bit awkward at one moment there. And Paul was having a wonderful time. I think this is going to be the highlight of his stay in Djuma, isn't it, Paul? He's smiling. Bobby Blue, they just eat it. When a large animal is brought down, if a lioness has the kill on her own, like a leopard, we see the leopard go through the soft bits, the stomach, the rump. But when a large animal is brought down by pride, they just start eating everywhere they can get access. It is a phenomenal thing. Put a piece of meat on the table in front and just grab it from every possible angle and just rip it. That's what they do. And they just inhale. It requires a lot of power, a lot of biting and ripping. And they use the front of their teeth to rip initially until eventually they can start getting into the hide. And then they start cutting the hide with the side of their teeth. The side of the teeth is the cutting edge, the carnassial shear, which is exclusive to predators, carnivores. And that they use for cutting, like a knife. But the front teeth, the canines and the incisors are used for ripping the meat, and they just swallow. So a feeding frenzy is exactly what it is. And they just take huge chunks. Sometimes it gets to the point where they all just start holding on to what they can with both paws, and the biggest, strongest individuals will fight the other ones off. That's why large prides need to make big kills, so that there's enough food to go around. And once the animal gets a lot smaller, they start taking bits and pieces off on their own, legs, necks, rumps, fillets, whatever they can get, off into corners where they feed it on their own. Okay, well, very good. We're going to send you over to Mo in Tswalu Kalahari with his wild dogs.
So guys, we had some interesting, I wouldn't call it interaction because the dogs were basically ignoring the giraffe, but the giraffe came up right next to the waterhole and they were staring at these wild dogs. And like I said, the dogs just didn't pay any attention to them. As you can see, their batteries are still a little low. However, hopefully soon they'll start moving. I'm really in the mood for them to start moving now. Start hunting maybe a little bit. But, you know, it's understandable. It's been a really hot day. They are going to take it easy. Carol, so the birds, the main species of bird or genus of bird that we have around the dam at the moment is the doves. So there's laughing doves, there's Cape turtle doves, and then there's the Namakwa doves. And then we've got quite a bit of wattled starling also around, not around the waterhole though, but if we go over to the salt block in a moment, we'll show you all the wattled starlings. They're busy nibbling on the saltiness there. So you can see there's also some doves, but mostly the wattled starlings that's moving around in that particular area, just getting a little bit of mineral salts in. But yeah, around the waterhole it was mainly the laughing doves, the Cape turtle doves, and then the Namakwa doves that were busy flying around there. You can see the bird activity picking up quite a bit now. With it cooling down, they're also feeling a little bit better. They'll also start vocalizing a lot more now, just because with the air cooling down, their sound will travel further, so they'll be able to advertise their territory for quite a longer distance. That's why the things like the lions and so on also call during the cooler parts of the day, or mostly during the evening, just so that they can tell everyone who's the boss for a greater distance. But yeah, normally our bird life is more active, especially during summertime, more active during the mornings when it's been cool the whole night, and then the sun has yet to heat up the surface of the earth, than in the afternoons. During winter time, like we've mentioned, now with the ticks and so on, we don't really have warm days, actually freezing nights, so you'll find them being active throughout most of the day then. But yeah, just lazy dogs at the moment. Those two dogs are lying so still there on the right hand side, you can almost not see that it's two. Blake, so yes, you will still have wild roaming or free roaming wild dogs, especially places like Botswana and the Caprivi and the Okavango Delta and so on. There's no fences, so you quite often find dogs moving around there. Funny enough, we actually, on the farm back home in Limpopo, had the one time a pack of dogs coming through there, which we never knew about, even that they existed. And, you know, as is protocol, you immediately contact the authorities because it's an endangered species. And I think this is a while back now. I think they contacted De Wild or one of those institutions, and they told us, yeah, no, they've actually been monitoring that pack for the past 25 years. And we only saw it for the first time then. So yes, we do still have free-roaming dogs, not necessarily in South Africa as much anymore, but in places like Botswana, Zimbabwe, Angola, Zambia, there you'll find them quite a lot, well, quite actively free-roaming still. Look at how beautiful that light is on that dog now, guys, that the sun is breaking through, just through the clouds. Now, this is what I was talking about with that golden light. Just makes everything pop, even though he's a little bit more, or his main part of the body is in the shade still. Just having that golden lining on the outside of the dog there, you can actually see the coloration a bit better. But there's one of the other dogs also now getting up, coming to the waterhole. So hopefully soon the rest will follow. That would be great. A shame this one particular dog at the waterhole is quite cautious of whatever is at the water's edge. Maybe there's some bees or something that is causing her to be a little bit cautious about the fact that she wants to drink water. See, the alpha pair got up now, so that's a good sign. We'll see now when they start engaging in their little waking up ritual. We'll see that soon, if it is the case. But even if they don't do the whole ritual or so, guys, as soon as they decide it's time to start going, then the rest will just follow, especially the alpha female. She's kind of the boss. So yeah, we're going to have a look and see if they are going to get active. Hopefully they will. If so, we'll come show you guys.
As you can see, it's getting quite dark now. We've been trying to see if we can find Tandy's little one, but there's been no sign. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit here very quietly and let you enjoy the sounds of these ellies as they feed instead. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a tiny little baby there. That's just on the right of that big female. You can hardly see it. Very cute though. See it there just behind its mom. Tiny, tiny, tiny little one. One of the siblings is in the way now. Isn't that beautiful, just listening to those sounds of the ellies? Such a relaxing thing and the perfect way to kind of close out one's day. Alright, well, I'm going to carry on, hopefully.
Thanks, Tristy. Welcome back, everyone. We've managed to reposition slightly, get you a better view. And looks like somebody ate all the pies. Look at that fellow there. Isn't that a belly, eh? Of course, it's a boy. Now, when it comes to feeding, when it comes to being on the kill, the boys always just have the physicality to just push the girls around. And you quite often find them getting, as the very common phrase goes, the lion's share. And that comes in very, very pertinently in lion prides, in the fact that the male lions, even at this age, 2.5 or so, 2.5, are just so much more physical than their sisters, and they're bigger, or approaching, at least, equivalently the same weight as the adult females. They're just able to completely outcompete them when it comes to feeding. That's why you often find them being left behind as the pride goes. For example, if there was a small impala and the males dominated, you'd find the lionesses leaving to go hunt again. There's a little bit of calling going on here. Now that's what happens when you don't chew your food properly. You don't realize you're full until you can't move. That fellow there has eaten it all. They are going to spend quite a bit of the evening right here, sleeping it off. Okay, well, it's quite cloudy here, but we're going to send you over to Prydens, who seems to be enjoying a view.
Good evening and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We're currently in an open plains area that's called, where was seen over here. a elephant that came free. So we just returned to the area in the hope that she might be able to pop up back around here. So we're just scanning and seeing what is going on. Meanwhile, we were also watching the sun setting. However, it went down quite quickly this evening. A lot of cloud cover that's moved in. The weather that's rapidly changing. Also the wind picking up. So there's a predicted rain that's coming in for later this evening. We're just going to allow you to sit and enjoy the sounds of the wilderness. And meanwhile, we're just going to scan this open plains area in the hope that we might locate on this single lioness. Good evening, Elizabeth, and welcome to the show. You're 100% right. It's absolutely a stunning sunset that we had there. And it's such amazing colors, actually. Although the sun is down already, we've got all these blues and purples and mauve colorations that are still filling the sky. And sometimes for me it's amazing to watch when there's a sunset with so much clouds in it, how the clouds can also contribute to the effect of that sunset. As most of you that might know me from previous shows, I'm definitely in love with sunsets and sunrises, and wherever I can get the opportunity to sit and enjoy a sunset or a sunrise, I will take the time out to go and sit there. It's probably also one of the most commonly posted photos that I've ever posted is of sunrises and sunsets. Just love them. We're just going to stick a little bit longer here on this open plains and hope that this lioness might come out. Quite often with wind that muffles the sounds, that makes it actually a little bit easier for them to hunt. But in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Maurits, who's busy viewing wild dogs at Tswalu.
So guys, before we go closer, these dogs luckily now have started moving. Have a look at how cool that is to have that sort of sunset with the dogs in the short grass, which we don't have a lot of at the moment, mostly long. But, I mean, having those dogs on the open clearing with the sunset at the background breaking through the clouds like that, it's just amazing. We'll go, like I said, we'll go a little closer now. You can see there's quite a bit of smelling and so on going on. Not quite sure what they're smelling. It could be that they're smelling antelope or warthog or something, or they're just picking up on all sorts of all the different bush smells. and catching up with what's going on in the bush Facebook. But that trot means we need to start moving so that we can follow where they go. Something quite interesting happening at the moment. We'll show you now. The male and female alpha pair is engaging in a bit of a ritual where both of them are marking and so on. Very clear indication of them, being very interested in one another, but also that hopefully she will be going into estrus soon. You can see they're very much doing the same thing at the moment. Quite cool to see that behavior. And the other two dogs are keeping their eyes open for, well, I think prey animals at the moment. We'll see soon. This area, shame, look at how cute that guy is now, rolling in the completely destroying that bush though. He must like what she's just told him as far as the chemical messages was concerned. There we go. Gwendolyn, yes. So the alpha, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes the beta female will get pregnant, and it will most likely be the alpha male that would have mated with her. So if he walks around a little bit, you'll find that is the case, where the alpha male mates with a beta female and she gets pregnant, and it will most likely be when the alpha female allows it as well. So when they need the pack to grow in numbers quite substantially. Look at that. I mean, do we just not have the best jobs in the world? That was epic. So yeah, guys, as you can see, not clearly on a mission just yet. They are just starting to move us. Oh, that alpha female just picked up pace. Not running yet, but just taking that little trot. Happy, yeah. It is a special scene to have. I mean, it's just incredible to have this with the dogs and with the sunset and with the green. So it's just beautiful. Very, very special. You know, you get this sense of almost relaxation. But then you remember it's wild dogs, so you know there's going to be some major action hopefully soon. And that female is now definitely, the alpha female has now definitely picked up some pace. So that's a very good indication that we might get to see something a little bit more active soon. Let's go this way. You can actually see this giraffe being quite upset about the fact that the dogs are moving. I'm not going to spend too much time looking at the giraffe though, but it's not too happy about the fact that there's wild dogs not too far away from her, moving at a relatively steady pace. So yeah, guys, what we're going to do, we're going to stick with them, see if they find something. If they do, and they look like they want to hunt, we're going to let you know. For the meantime, we're sending you over to Steve, okay?
How amazing, Mo. You still got some sunshine that side and some mobile hounds. We've got some very immobile lions. Here we go. There's a tail flick. And almost all activity has ceased. So a little bit of chewing going on of the last final remnants of bones of this poor waterbuck. The horns. Did you just got the bottom of that? Minimum, yes, they will get lots of calcium from the bones if they can crush them up. But the very sharp, jagged bits, these guys, lions, leopards, aren't able to digest. So they will, if they don't have time to chew them up like lions, like right now, anyone who's busy feeding on bones is actually doing a good job of it and being able to crunch and crunch and crunch. But when they're in the depths of the initial feeding stage, all that's going in is shards, bits of broken, everything they can get in. And so a lot of that, there'll probably be some digestion on it, but a lot of that then has to get regurgitated up because they're not able to digest it. It doesn't break down in the tummy, and it can't go through the digestive tract, and so that then gets regurgitated with fern bone in little vomit piles, which we often find and love to dig in and find what animals have been in there. Hyenas, on the other hand, yes, are able to digest the bone completely, and then that comes out in their scat. Their scat turns very, very white. A lot of animals will actually feed on the calcium of bones in the veld. Giraffe and kudu, specifically when they're breeding. Tortoises, porcupine, warthog will all feed on bone that they can find in the wilderness. And some animals will even go as far as to feed on very white and badly smelling hyena scat. Yep, you heard it. I just got the name there. Did you get the whole question? I heard Alan's name. I didn't get the question, though. Sorry, I didn't. I just heard the beginning and the end of that, unfortunately. Alan, the teeth, yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, you often find the soft bits of the face get eaten, and I've found teeth in animal vomit as well, in lion vomit, when they'll eat the face. The entire cheekbones, the jaws can be eaten. But invariably on big animals like giraffe and buffalo, and maybe on a big waterbuck like this, they'll eat the skin around the chin and around the face, but the entire face will be left behind. The entire nasal area probably chewed off and broken, and any of the soft bones broken. But the teeth themselves generally are left behind. But on a small animal, the whole thing will go in. The whole thing will go in the mouth and into the digestive system. I found bones, I found hooves, fur, as well as teeth in lion regurgitation before. We really are a weird bunch, aren't we? We walk around and we find these things and we get so excited. Oh, look at this lion vomit with fur and bones. And I found an entire impala hoof in one once. The entire hoof, untouched. It was just there, the whole hoof. There's no way that could have gone through the digestive system. It would have come out looking very differently if it had. Well, thank you, Telemarties, for a very enterprising afternoon. We're at least really happy we found them. Nicanova, unfortunately, is, yes, many lions, leopards have been known to eat their same species if they've killed them. It's not always the case. It doesn't always happen. But you can often find a lion eating another lion after it's killing it. It happens more regularly with cubs that get killed. You'll find a lioness or a male lion killing a cub and then deciding to eat it. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes they leave it, but you do see it sometimes. It's very hard to watch, in fact. But end of the day, it's dead. So there's nothing really that can happen to that animal. It's going to get consumed by something and return to the soil. And so yes, in that case, the entire animal will go through the digestive system. Probably most of it broken down because the bones are very soft. But every now and again, lions that kill other lions might even end up feeding on them. But they didn't kill them to eat them. They killed them because of competition. Okay, well, we're going to send you over to Tess at Nbiyana Ngala for an update.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. So we had to leave that lioness at her den site. She decided to get up and move into a different thicket, so we didn't want to sit there and have any extra pressure on those new cubs. So we decided to head off in search of Makoti male, the young male leopard we've been seeing the last 2 or 3 days. And so that's exactly what I'm doing now. I'm actually driving along the stretches where we know he likes to frequent. We're actually quite close to And Beyond Ngala's tented camp at the moment. And he was seen around here this morning very briefly, and we have seen his tracks this afternoon. So what I'm doing is actually just hoping he's decided that this is the time of night where he's going to get up and start moving. There are some clearings we've just been through. Where my lights were off, there was a whole lot of impalas there as well as a wildebeest. And so it's a great hunting ground for him, especially in this weather. We've had a lot of wind and it's been getting worse and worse. We've actually felt quite a few raindrops now as well. So I think it is getting to that time where we are expecting rain any minute. And so I think that's a pretty good cue for the predators to start coming out now that it's dark and windy and cold, to start getting active. Just Max, the history of And Beyond Ngala is actually quite a long history. It was actually initially farmland. They used to farm cattle here, and Hans Hoheisen was actually the man who decided to donate the land to WWF, and that was way back. And so instead of passing it on to his children, they all decided as a family it would be better to donate the land to WWF for conservation. And so WWF actually took over the properties and put them all together. And we're very close to Orpen Camp in the Kruger National Park. It's actually just on our eastern boundary. And from there it started becoming wild again. So it started rehabilitating itself and then converted over into the Kruger National Park. We were actually the first private game reserve incorporated into the Kruger National Park. A lot of other private reserves are only in the greater Kruger National Park area. We are very lucky that we are actually within the Kruger National Park. And the lodges have been here since 1991. And in 1994, our last fences came down with the Kruger National Park. So it's quite a long history. I was born in 1994. So that was all happening before I was even born. In the northern section of And Beyond Ngala, that was actually initially a lodge itself, but for hunting safaris. And as soon as it was donated, we actually also bought a piece of land. We used it for conservation instead. So what I'm going to do is I am going to keep looking for Makoti male along this road. This is where we found his tracks this morning. And I'm going to send you over to Tswalu for an update.
So yeah, guys, they're definitely looking to hunt, moving with their noses directly into the wind. There is a blue wildebeest in front of us, but it is a large male, so I don't think they'll be going for that. But you can see constantly smelling the air, making sure that they're not missing any of their prey species, things like steenbok, warthog, duiker, all of those things. Those are the types of animals that they'll be going for at the moment. Impala, if they were out here. Springbok, to a certain extent, I'm sure they'll try, but however, I think the springbok will be a little fast for them at the moment. But, you know, in a larger pack, they might be able to be successful when they can surround the herd and single out an individual and, you know, properly corner it. But it doesn't seem like they've picked up on anything, you know, of value to hunt at the moment. Not yet, at least. And, you know, sometimes they don't even smell it, they just flush it out of the grass. So, yeah. Let's see if they find something, guys. If they do, we'll come show you quickly.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and, of course, meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply. If you love to watch Wild Earth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions, join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day.
Hi, I'm Mike Anderson, and I come to you live every day from Eco Training Pridelands Conservancy in South Africa. The wild animal I think is most underrated. I think buffaloes are the most underrated. They're so tenacious and ferocious, and also very, very protective of each other, which I find incredible. You know, sometimes people think of the big five, they just think of lions and leopards and other big animals, but I think buffaloes are pretty underrated.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
We have a baby pangolin. A baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Welcome back to Djuma, and welcome back to the Talamati Pride. It's one of our young males who's looking rather uncomfortable. Very shallow breathing due to the fact that the belly's full, pushing up on the diaphragm. The pride seems to have all accumulated again. It's very hard to count them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 there. And there's one on our right-hand side that came around to just check up on us. But I'm guessing the whole pride got together what an entertaining and interesting afternoon. It's wonderful finding the tracks of the Telematis right out the gate, and to spend an afternoon tracking them. It goes to show you how weather conditions, after talking about it this morning, weather will affect the hunt. They will actually be active in windy and rainy days. And it's all about the hunger. If they are hungry, they will move, and they moved a fair distance. And we're, I think, very fortunate to catch up with them. And then very fortunate again that they didn't kill too far away. And we eventually got out. Thank you again to those wonderful souls who gave us assistance. Thank goodness for radios. No signal where we were. We do appreciate all of your comments and questions this afternoon, everybody. We have really, really enjoyed hosting you from all of our various locations this afternoon, and we look forward to hosting you once again tomorrow morning on the 24th of January, Sunday morning. Some of you might be staying in bed while you watch us in the morning. That's great. Or you might be busy with the rest of your day. But until then, from all of us here at Wild Earth and our various properties, we thank you. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Until then, good night and goodbye.